For those Dead by Daylight reviews. Also, as the title suggests, we're also going to go over the perk reworks. And bam. First things first, let's start off with, well, signing in. Uh, huh? What's this? Uh, uh, there was some sort of notifications that I can't see. It's not actually showing me them. Hang on. Uno momento. That's something you don't want to hear. I can't access my notifications, so if somebody said something to me, oh wait, no, I can activate them this way. Mention you in a new Hex perk idea, countering the boon meta. Mention you in DBD Killer, the Tupla and Human, and Raven something mention you in a new horror. Well, that was at the beginning of the month, so they didn't mention me. It was something else. Okay, that's fine. Somebody just basically wanted to use one of my perk suggestions in one of their future projects. I'm always fine with that. Anybody that watches the stream, if you want to take any of my suggestions, perfect them, and put them out as your own or whatever, do as you like. That's what I'm here for, is just to give you, you know, a start on a new project. I don't need any credit. I don't need any of that. I just kind of want barbecue chili, Deliverance, pharmacy, and tinkerer. Ooh, that Shrine of Secrets, though. Damn, I'm gonna have to play to get Deliverance now. Hello, Fire Lord. How's things going? That's kinda... Dang, I'm gonna have to play some Dead by Daylight now to get Deliverance. That's one of the perks that I've been looking for a long time in the Shrine of Secrets. Uh, I'm doing fine. Hopefully you're doing fine. I woke up kinda early today, so I figured I would stop putting this on the back burner and start actually doing some more reviews. What am I looking at? I am in the Dead by Daylight creation forum. The link hopefully is still in the description if you want to go to the forum and check things out. Um, People basically come to this forum, they post chapter ideas, killer ideas, perk ideas, etc., etc. And behavior actually looks at them. Some of the new killers and killers from the past have actually been parts and pieces of other concepts put together to create, you know, decent killers. I haven't done anything in like a month, maybe a month and a half. So I am kinda far behind in review wise, but that's not that big of an idea. I'm actually not as far back as I thought I was. Yeah, I'm only like 2 pages behind. That's not bad. Hmm. I figured I would be less like completely just blown out. Killer concept, the Phantom of the Opera. I am a very... Is it like a video game? Yes. If you ever heard the game Dead by Daylight, it's the creation form of the game Dead by Daylight. Um, well, Dead by Daylight's not free anymore, but it was free a couple of months ago. Very fun game. It's basically like a pseudo hide and seek game. A killer runs around trying to, well, kill, or in this case, knock you over and then throw you onto a hook. And you're trying to repair generators and then open and exit gate and escape. Very fun game. I might play some after I do a couple of reviews. Not Oats Darva and Probs, Probz, and Not Oats Darva, Otz Darva. They are very good, high quality Dead by Daylight players. Oats Darva's a good killer. Probs, or Probs, whichever one you prefer, is a good survivor. So if you want to see either perspective, Not Oats Darva and Probs, or Probs, are the two that I would personally recommend for seeing both of the sides at a more enhanced or more pro playstyle. Let's see. I am a very big fan of the Phantom of the Opera. And it looks like I am new to this channel. I hope this sub helps. Hey, I appreciate it. I don't really do content anymore because I used to do things like multiple times a day, but now it's been like a month. But I always appreciate it. But yeah, if you like horror games, well, semi-horror games, Dead by Daylight's definitely worth a pickup. So I guess what I'll do is I'll go over this Phantom of the Opera, give my opinion on it, and then we'll hop on to Dead by Daylight because I really want to pick up Deliverance. So starting off, killer concept, The Phantom of the Opera by 1000 Dumplings, who has 2 posts. This includes 3 new perks, a killer, power, add-ons, and a backstory. Now, this was actually made before Sadako and Dredge came out, so it is pretty similar to their powers, but I'm hoping you'll enjoy regardless. Any comments or criticisms are super appreciated. Thanks. This came out before Sadako and Dredge, so if there aren't any similarities, I'm going to kind of overlook some of them. However, I'm still going to review with the mindset that if they were to add this particular killer into the game now, I found this channel from my friend Alpha Cat. Hey! I haven't talked to Alpha Cat in a long time. I'll have to thank him next time I see him pop in. That's pretty cool. Well, if you do stop by, thanks Alpha Cat. I'll thank you now and later. But as I do this review, I'm going to, well, I'm probably not going to do any Rocket League today, so, Anyway, I'm going to review this as, if it was going to be implemented today, like now, as opposed to, before then. I'm back, KO Firelord. What's going on, Galanonim? I'm also going to review it before I go over all of this, so anything that I say is very highly subject to change. Keep that in mind. Difficulty is hard. The Phantom, a mass performer, performer, able to fly across the map with the view of his victims below, and a insta-grab struggle using a hangman's noose. I wish he could have listed that more elegantly, but that's fine. I like horror books. If you watch any movies like, Friday the 13th with Jason or Michael Myers or Freddy Krueger or any of that, they're in Dead by Daylight. If that piques your interest any, if you like movies or read any books that are related to anything like that. It's personal perks. Think of me, Music of the Night, and Hex Masquerade can torment and confuse the obsession, discourage teamwork, and hide you from detection before going in for the kill. Not going to go into huge detail because I assume, well, one, I generally don't, and two, I assume it's just going to be the backstory of the Phantom of the Opera. So, yeah, Eric Claudman was born with a condition which rendered most of his face severely deformed, disowned by his mother as a child, handed over to an organizers of a freak show, and had a shitty life. And then if you know the Phantom of the Opera, you know the things about Christine and the Phantom and all of that. We are starting out with the power first. In life, the Phantom was a master showman and a magician within the realm. The entity has given form to his illusions. Reading about Chucky and cannibals and more. Uh, Closest thing to a cannibal you would have is the Hag in Dead by Daylight lore. Unfortunately, Chucky has not yet been implemented. Demogorgon was there for a little bit, and they had like an Oni, like Japanese lore spirit. There's Sadako from The Ring. She's in there, and a couple of others. Not bad. Overture. Start the trial with 2 roses. Gain an additional rose for every successful phantom strangle for a maximum of 4 roses. Press and hold the active ability button to place down the rose. The auras of red or placed roses are visible to survivors within a radius of 6 meters. Hydra, Medusa. I have no idea. Oh, Cerberus. Gotcha. Nah, none of them are there. Unfortunately, not. But I could see them probably putting in something like a Medusa. A Hydra would be that would be rough to code. Same with a Cerberus. They would be pretty rough to code as a killer because you would have a lot of moving parts. They try to keep things kind of simplistic. It is an indie game that's grown over the course of years. Pressing the active ability button on a placed rose, you'll fly into the air and travel to another selected rose elsewhere on the map at a speed of 6 meters per second. During this time, you are invisible and can look down at the map below you. The auras of any survivor objects within a 6 meter radius of a direct line between either rose will be highlighted to you. Is that supposed to be survivor objects or survivor subjects? Because if it's an object, it's anything that they're carrying on them will be shown as an aura. If it's the subject itself being the survivor, then the survivor would glow. That needs to be clarified, and it just being, well, context clue would make me think that he either missed the O or he didn't hit S twice in space and it's supposed to be subjects. But I think it's supposed to be objects, but I'm not entirely sure. that needs some clarification. So you get 2 roses. You put 1 rose down somewhere, and then you can put a rose down in another place. And you can teleport back and forth in between roses. It says that you can have a maximum of 4 roses on you, but how many roses can you put down at one time before they either start disappearing and updating or you run out? That's something that needs to be clarified. Devs prefer humanoid looking creatures. Exactly, but the new killer is quite an exception. However, instead of a body, he just has black mist. Indeed. Indeed. So when it comes to complex structures, they kind of design away from it to where they don't have to design everything. Do they have... Is that iron hooks? I actually have no idea what the last thing you posted, Fire Lord, is. But probably not. I mean, they have hooks that you can hook the survivors on, but that's about the extent of that. They have Pinhead. Mm. If you know who Pinhead is. If that's a consolation, they have Pyramid Head from Silent Hill, if you've ever gotten into that. Or the Cenobite for Pinhead. They call him the Cenobite. Out of respect for the author, I'll say Cenobite. This would allow you to have a decent amount of movement in between places. However, what I would like to see in the future from the Overture is a way to either cut or pull roses out. Since you get roses from survivors and you start with 2 roses, then it should definitely be a system to where both of those work together. So there shouldn't ever exist more than 6 roses on the map, being every survivor has 1 additional rose on them, and then you start with 2, if that makes sense. I would love to see a system to where all of that works together to keep it more realistic than the Phantom just pulling roses out of random survivors, you know? Especially if he's like, tunneling and going after the same survivor multiple times. They just have basically, infinite roses popping out of them, putting them down, and then tunneling them again and getting another rose and putting it down. Because this exact teleportation is kind of terrifying. Especially if he expands upon that and makes it to where you can do something with it, with the ore reading and whatnot that he's talking about. Or if you can cancel like mid-flight or something like that, then you would definitely want to limit the amount of roses that you can have. You also want to make it to where, a survivor that doesn't have a rose maybe suffers some sort of effect. And then when the survivor goes and picks up the rose, that effect goes away. To more tie it together and make, better use with less assets and things in the game. That's what I would like to see in the future. When you're flying, you are completely invisible. So the moment you take off, you're invisible. Survivors have no idea where you are or what you're doing. That's another reason why you would want to limit the amount of roses and how you can procure them, because they are strong. If you want to get around that, make these particular abilities, the invisibilities and things like that, part of add-ons. and nerf the base rose and use your add-ons to add powers to the roses. Then you can have, one survivor getting titled, giving multiple roses and all of that. You'll also want to maybe decrease how fast you move while you're flying in the air and all of that, and have an add-on to increase that to the 6 meters per second as well. I mean, 6 meters per second ain't bad, but if you're able to just flying into the air and go straight over buildings and things like that, and over, loops and other things, and go from one place to the other, you're cutting out a lot of time, so you don't necessarily need to move fast and get that done as well. Also, if we talk about indoor maps and things like that, you don't want to necessarily, even though it says fly into the air, it doesn't give you, how high you go. You don't want to fly into the air very far. You really just need to kind of hover or barely levitate and then move to another position fairly quickly. There's no point in, coding it to where you actually fly through the air and do all kinds of other things during that. Because the only thing you're going to do is introduce lag. And if they do decide to or open up their anti-cheat, they're going to have to code that in. And if they code that in, then anybody that has any scripts can take advantage of the flying effect of that particular killer. And it can cause problems. Moving on. If you wait until you reach the other row, so there is something that can happen, you will drop off at the rows silently. If you just travel between the two, only the rows not at your destination breaks. Okay, so he went through another way, and he decided after the teleportation happens, the rose breaks. That's another way that you could nerf the rose to make it to where if you do tunnel a survivor, you can get multiple roses. Once the rose breaks, it should then return back to the survivor, and everything's hunky-dory. Or you should have to down another survivor to get another rose. Okay, that's not bad. Now, me personally, I wouldn't allow the rose to break, and I would just make it to where survivors can deactivate them. Because one, it gives you an add-on to have like a thorny rose, that if a survivor deactivates your rose, they take a health state status effect, or they get like the hemorrhage effect or something like that. It gives you more options, having the survivors interact with it to disable it. Putting a cooldown on it so you can't rapidly teleport will help too, to keep somebody from just, getting in a 3-gen situation and just hopping back and forth in between the gens super fast and stopping survivors from being able to do anything. That's another thing that you definitely would need to look for. Any type of potential exploits, etc., etc. If you drop in between the roses during your flight, you drop down heavily, causing a noise notification for survivors within a 36-meter range and stunning you for 2 seconds. If you're going to stun the killer for 2 seconds after dropping down, there's no need to have a noise notification. Plus, the Phantom is a very elegant being, but he's also borrows people's voices, and he sings duets with them. He kind of haunts people. Yes, he has a physical manifestation, I'll say in quotes. However, he can have conversations with people, and he can sing in duets with people and things like that. It's an opera. The Phantom of the Opera. It's loud. There's a lot of singing. There's a lot of things like that. So you should definitely have some sort of, lullaby coming out of him, or something that's, indicative to that. Even if it's just when he's teleporting in between roses. You should still have something. If you cancel your flight, there shouldn't be a noise notification if you're going to have the stun. One or the other. Survivors don't need to know where you're landing at because, one, they can see you falling out of the sky, and if they're nearby, whatever terror radius or whatever system you have up is going to kick in, letting them know that, hey, he's nearby. And two, if you're going to land down, you've obviously seen a survivor and you're deciding you're going to drop down, then, trust me, that survivor's probably going to notice you falling out of the sky and then standing there for about 2 seconds stunned, and they're going to get their, butt in gear. If you drop down in between roses, both roses will break. See, I don't agree with that. If I only start with 2 roses and I can only get an additional rose after using your instant pickup power, at least that's what I assume that the Phantom Strangle is the pickup power. I don't know. I'll find out in a moment. But if that's the only way that I can actually get a rose back, then, I'm kind of limited in what I can do. If I teleport through and I fall in between the 2 roses that I have set up, then I have no other means of maneuverability. It's gone. 110% gone, which makes the power very lackluster. If you're gonna make the roses break, then you should have that as part of like an iridescent or rare add-on that gives you a significant amount of power because you were breaking all of your roses on the field. So you should get something that's equivalent for you to lose that particular part of your power. Let's see what this Phantom Struggle is. Successfully hitting survivor with a basic attack while standing still. Or while the survivor is standing still will initiate Phantom Struggle. So I assume this is going to be a stealth killer with no terror radius, but has a lullaby at some point in time. Because you would have to keep the opera theme. Because there's no way in hell you're going to get these hits on survivors with a basic attack while standing still. Ain't no way. You would have to be sitting behind a wall, and as that survivor walks out, you would have to time that basic attack as they're walking by. Those of you that don't know, a basic attack has no type of lunge or anything associated with it. You just swing. You know how hard that's going to be to get a basic attack while standing still. The only time you would really be able to get that is if you caught them off guard or if you camped a hook and as they were unhooking, walked over and basic attacked them. But you would have to time that basic attack, because if you basic attack while standing still while they're unhooking, you'll get a grab and you'll pick that survivor up, as with many other animations in the game. So it's kind of like you're damned if you do, damned if you don't, at that situation. Do you get the grab and then take them to a hook, or do you try to get this Phantom Struggle? Hmm. Now, what you could do, instead of doing things like this, you can just make it based off of just grabs. Make it a passive that the Phantom's able to grab any survivor that's in any type of interaction at any time. If they're working on a totem, you can grab them and enter Phantom Struggle. And make Phantom Struggle part of a grab and just buff it. They're hopping a window, obviously you can grab them. If they're sliding pallets, you can grab them. If they're doing any type of, interaction with anything on the map at any point in time, even things that normally you wouldn't be grabbed on, like them opening a chest, If you walk up and, do the basic attack on them, you grab them instead and enter in the Phantom Struggle. That would be more worthwhile than, or you can make it press like the power button or some other button if you still want the ability to grab regularly. You can do that as well. Map it to another button. And make it to where you can enter in this grab type ability as opposed to making it like super hard and almost impossible to get. The Phantom will wrap a noose around the survivor's neck, and both the Phantom and survivor will enter a struggle phase. I wish you wouldn't call it struggle phase, because that just reminds me of phase 2 of being on the hook. During this phase, both the Phantom and the survivor will have to pass several skill checks in rapid succession. If the survivor fails a skill check, the Phantom will pick the survivor up, and the survivor will not be able to struggle for 180 seconds. Hooks will be unable to be sabotaged or sabotaged. I guess it'd be like laughed, so it'd be taft, sabotaged, sabotaged, because there's no H. Sabotaged. Anyway, sabotage during this time. If the Phantom fails a skill check, the survivor will escape. The Phantom will be stunned for 4 seconds. Obviously, add-ons will probably decrease that to where they won't be stunned. So, it's just a rapid skill check battle. And I assume, base without add-ons, both the killer and survivors have the same skill checks, and as you add on add-ons, you can make the killer skill checks easier or the survivor skill checks harder. The only problem is, somebody that's good at skill checks could literally hold the killer hostage while just hitting skill check after skill check after skill check. And that is an inherent flaw in the particular system here. How do you balance that? Do you make it to where the house wins, aka there's like 10 skill checks, and if the killer hits all 10, survivor's done regardless? Or do you give the survivor leeway and say if the survivor hits all 10 skill checks, they escape? Because during those skill checks, that's time wasted. Plus, you're going to get stunned if the survivor escapes after that for even more time wasted. And that's the only way to get roses. So if you're stuck in animation for, let's say, 10 seconds, just to get 1 additional rose, and I'm pretty sure it just says 1 rose, not 2. Yeah, gain 1 additional rose every successful Phantom struggle. And that's just 1 rose. So you have to do that twice in order to be able to teleport again, unless you already have a rose active on the field. So if you drop down early and lose all of your roses, you now have to spend 20 seconds minimum in a tug of war in between you and another survivor. So this is not a very good thing. Now, if you do manage to get the win there, you will have a survivor on your shoulder for 180 seconds, efficiently taking them out of the game for 3 whole minutes. That's like a third of the game they'll be on your shoulder. If you run this with anything like Mad Grit and Agitation, you can have a huge amount of speed while carrying a survivor and an unlimited amount of swipes, to where even if you miss, you can just hit again and again and again and again and again. No cooldown on your attacks. So you can just machine gun other survivors and continue to move. You have 3 full minutes. Now, the obvious thing is you can't break pallets with somebody on your shoulder, so you're either going to have to drop the person and break the pallet or walk around at that point. So you're definitely going to want to run additional speed perks so you can bypass pallets and still be able to continue moving. You cannot get bloodlust, as far as I know, while a survivor's on your shoulder as well. So that's out of the question as well. So you're definitely going to want to run a speed perk alongside that. That gives you just speed off the, save, or is it save the best for last or play with your food? I think it's save the best for last, maybe? That gives you tokens as long as you're not hitting the obsession, and you want to get charges on that to get a large amount of speed. Then you want to run agitation to give you a large amount of speed, and then like mad grit or something like that, which not only gets rid of your cooldown, if you hit somebody, pauses the timer for like 4 seconds. And then basically just play it like that. But the thing about it is, again, the Phantom of the Opera, is inside your mind. So as that person is on your shoulder and all of that, there should be something that you can get from that particular person. There should be a mechanic while you're holding that survivor. Because somebody who is stuck on your shoulder for a period of 3+ minutes, depending on what perk she runs, probably just going to rage quit at that point. There's no way for them to get down. Somebody has to efficiently or save them. It takes 2 minutes to get sacrificed on a hook and 4 minutes to bleed out, and you're right in between that at 3 minutes. And I'm going to tell you one thing. I'm going to be severely angry at behavior and whoever came up with the idea if I get caught in this phantom struggle and that person just decides he wants to be a troll that day and runs no ad with that phantom struggle, stands at the edge of the map or stands in basement or something like that, and just waits for everybody to finish generators. Because I got caught like mid game. And as they finish generators and escape, I just get, dusted. That's even worse than basement camping, Bubba. Because you put somebody in the basement, as somebody comes down, you phantom strangle them. I've been calling it phantom struggle. Phantom strangle that second person, and you can hold them on your, shoulder for a long time. There's no rush to actually hook that person or anything like that, and you can defend basement until everybody goes away. Then you can hook somebody and then go after somebody else. So there's a lot of ways you can play that. This I'm not a very big fan of. It's an extremely high reward for about a medium risk. Worst case scenario, it's whatever time you're stuck doing skill checks, unless that person's a skill check god, and a 4 second stun. There should be some time limit imposed or an amount of skill checks that you can get. So that person can't be held hostage. How this is wrote out, I could stand there hitting skill checks all day and prevent the phantom from moving the entirety of the match. Then once all the gens and all of that get done, I can just have somebody walk over with like a flashlight or some other shit and purposely fail a skill check. Once the phantom does his thing and picks me up, somebody hits him with the old flashlight stun, boom, and I'm dropped off the side. Or if I'm running, decisive won't be active anymore because, you've been there forever, or you've probably not been hooked, but, somebody flashlight stuns killer, and then all of you walk away. Go to the exit, that's it. Now, the Phantom, again, can fail a skill check at any point in time, but he has to deal with the 4-second stun. Decisive Strike is what? I think it's like a 3 to 5 second stun as it's scaling. Or something like that. I want to say Decisive. Well, no, Decisive might scale in its time that it stays active for instead of the stun wise. Might just be straight up 5 second stun. I don't know. I don't use it that often. Anyway, so for the Overture, I would like to see that it gets a little bit more love and made or given a lot more options that you could use this power for. Because as of now, it's just a temporary movement between two particular places, and that's not good enough when it comes to a base killer. I was hoping somewhere there would be tear radius and movement speed and things like that, but I don't think it's ever listed here, so I'm assuming it's just the 4.6. It's a 32-meter tear radius. And probably a lullaby added on as well, so the tear radius could be anything, but I have to go by default. So we're going to say 32-meter tear radius and like a 40-something meter lullaby or something like that, because it is an opera type concept. It's going to be probably heavily influenced by music and things like that. Yeah, I do like the concept, but 180 seconds is kind of absurd, as well as the 4-second stun. They don't correlate with each other at all. And yeah, just give it a lot more love and expand this out and open your mind, and hopefully you'll be able to perfect that. As of now, I gotta say, Overture isn't that great because at the end of the day, you are a standard mouse one killer with the ability to teleport a couple of times throughout the game. That's not good enough, unfortunately. Again, you need map pressure, gen pressure, or chase pressure. You have no form of chase pressure, no form of map pressure, and no form of gen pressure. Because the only thing you can do is teleport. And once you teleport, the rows that you teleport to breaks. Wait, now, the rows not at your destination. So the rows that you came from breaks. There you go. So yeah, the rows that you teleport from breaks. So in order to keep those teleportation active, you would have to place a rose like at the middle of the map. And then keep teleporting from the middle of the map out to another rose. From the middle of the map out to another rose. From the middle of the map out to another rose. And that's how you would be able to keep your roses active. I'm going to assume you can only have a maximum of 4 roses out in the field at all times. So you would put a rose by a generator. Since they can't be interacted with by survivors, I mean, you can teleport right in silently to each and every one of those generators. However, you would have to use your phantom strangle on at least 2 survivors successfully to get the other 2 roses. So at the end of the day, you can only really say that you would have a teleportation open between 2 roses at any given time. So you'd have 2 teleport things or 3 roses on the field at one point in time. Problem is, as soon as you teleport from the middle area to one of the gens, that middle area rose breaks. So you have to be going for constant phantom strangles as opposed to, knocking them down and hooking them and all of that. like regular Dead by Daylight dictates. So you're literally going to be spending all of your time, instead of just doing basic attacks and hooking, going for phantom strangles. As mentioned earlier, you have to basic attack them while standing still. While standing still is specifically mentioned there, and that's where the issue is. Huge issue. Because that's not just moving and then letting go of your stick and then hitting. Because when you let go of the stick, your killer doesn't stop on a dime. Your killer slowly stops animation and then goes, so you have to set up an ambush. I wonder if the devs would be able to make skill checks for killers. Oh, definitely. Definitely, and I do see it happening in the future that killers are going to get skill checks for specific actions, as opposed to them doing everything just automatically. Because it's the only way for them to stay competitive, or to be able to stay competitive in the actual game. Because as of now, killers just kind of set things up and other things happen naturally. The only thing they need to do is activate the power and then aim it in the correct direction. It's a very simplistic set of controls that the killer has. In the future, I could see them having, like the difference between the beta wiggles and all of that, where you have the left, right, and you can hit the great skill checks and get done a second early if you get all great skill checks on wiggle, or you can just keep it default and go the whole 16 seconds. Do something like that with the killer. If you hit the skill check, the killer completes the action a second earlier, or you can do it whatever standardly and have it the same speed, or you could miss the skill check and have it be done a little bit later. But yeah, they're eventually going to have to resort to that to keep the game competitive. And it's going to suck for the player base. They're going to hate it at first, but once they see the actual limitless things they can do with killing or giving the killer skill checks, and the amount of perks that can be activated because of giving the killer skill checks, the community will eventually come around. But oh yeah, that's going to have to happen in the future. Moving on to the perks, we have Think of Me. You become obsessed with one survivor. For the duration of the trial, your obsession will occasionally be able to see glimpses of your aura. That is called Object of Obsession. Some of these glimpses will be false. These false auras have their own terror radius only detectable by the obsession. In any instance where your obsession can see your aura by any other means, they will scream, and all survivors gain the blindness status effect for 30 seconds. So you've taken a perk like Object of Obsession and you've made it scaled basically towards the killer side, as opposed to leaving it neutral. Not a good idea. This is Object of Obsession, and then you added in fake glimpses. What do you mean by fake glimpses? Because if it's like a doctor's hallucination, you can obviously tell that it's a hallucination because it's not moving. The only other thing you could do is mimic the killer's movements on like a shadow clone of the aura that you see to try to give it some sort of, realism. And that's still not going to be, super great. Now, any instance where the obsession can see your aura by other means, they will scream. Well, that's going to be basically any time the aura pops up, because when you're doing generators, you typically look around to see if the killer's around you. So as you're looking around with your huge third-person screen, you're probably going to have the killer's aura pop in there. And I don't think that your entire team should face the penalty of blindness in that you should scream for something that you don't have control of. It just don't make sense. So when it comes to this perk, the only thing I could say is leave Object of Obsession alone and don't try to change it, especially if you kind of don't have an understanding of, base Dead by Daylight. It's just 30 seconds of blindness the entire team just got because one person being the obsession seen the killer. What if you're mid chase or you're going to rescue somebody off a hook or some other situation happens and the obsession just happens to glance where the killer is? As the obsession, what are you supposed to do? Just look down at the ground or at the generator as you work on it and hope that you don't get clapped by this killer that can put a rose wherever they want and can teleport at least once to that particular rose? If you combo that with other perks and things like that, you can easily just sneak up on the obsession and clap cheeks. Or if you know where your obsession is, you can basically force them to look at you. Because as you're running and training, oh boy, as you're running and being chased by the killer, anytime that they are behind an object, their obsession aura could be shown to you, giving your team the blindness effect and making you scream as well. Like I said, object of obsession is good how it is. I would kind of just leave it at that. I think like every 30 seconds, you and the killer sees each other's auras. Simple. It was my favorite perk till they put a time limit on it. In the past, object of obsession, anytime you looked in the killer's direction, you both could see each other. I prefer it like that because I used to bait the killers using my aura, and then I used to just sneak by them, go to the other side of the map, lather, rinse, and repeat. You'd be surprised how many killers would go for the easy kill that they think they can get when they can see your direct aura instead of just going for the guy that's near them. Music of the night. Your dreadful presence causes everything around you to fall into darkness, causing panic amongst the survivors. Survivors engaging in co-op actions, suffer from the oblivious status effect. That's where you can't perceive the killer's terror radius, or the heartbeat as it says. The speed of healing other survivors and unhooking is decreased by 10%. Kind of irrelevant. The only thing that this perk really shines in its power is during unhooks. But if you're unhooking properly and not unhooking when the killer's nearby and, not trading or farming that other player, unhooking them 10% slower is not going to mean anything. And if the killer's trying to tunnel or camp or anything, if you're running borrowed time, it's not going to matter how fast you unhook them and things like that. You might get damaged. You might have to, fake take a hit and unhook them, but, you're going to get them out of there. Especially if you go for the old Deliverance and the Shrine of Secrets right now, apparently. And unhook somebody, do the thing, and get Deliverance set up for yourself to where you can get yourself off the damn hook. Yeah, you're going to be exposed, but, it's not that bad. But I mean, every killer generally has a meh perk. And this would be this killer's meh perk. It's not a bad perk, but it doesn't have like high utility. So there's that. The last is a Hex Masquerade, and I am going to thank you personally for not having a regular perk, a Scourge Hook perk, and a Hex perk. Thank you for having 2 regular perks and then a Hex perk. Thank you. Hex Masquerade at the start of the trial gain the undetectable status effect. Keep in mind that because it's a perk, this goes for every single killer in the game at the start of the trial, giving them the undetectable status effect. Let's keep that in mind. You only lose the status effect upon the first time you down a survivor. Keyword there is down a survivor, at which point your aura will be visible to all survivors for 30 seconds. That's kind of irrelevant because as soon as you down the survivor, pick them up and hook them, again, it takes on average about 10 seconds for that to happen. After 10 seconds go by, about time you have travel time to another generator or something like that, you're going to be at the end, towards the end of your countdown. Stealthy Bubba games, exactly. The down survivor will suffer from the oblivious status effect until the associated hex totem is cleansed. If a hex totem is cleansed before you can down your first survivors, all survivors get a noise notification of your location. So, as much as I hate to say this, this goes good on a lot of killers being undetectable. The first one that popped into my mind is obviously the plague. If you can walk around as the plague and have no type of terror radius, you can just sneak up on generators and then barf all over people on gens. You could have that entire game infected before they even know where the hell you are. And they're going to have to make the decision of either going and cleansing, which is essentially locking down all of the fountains and giving you your greater power, or just playing through the game with a, sickness, broken, and not knowing what the hell to do. And after you get that last person sick, you then use the rest of that undetectable status effect to get that down. Now, some killers, it's completely useless on. If you have a loud killer like Nemesis, for example, that when he runs goes thump, 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 the undetectable status effect isn't as strong as it is on, like somebody else, like, I don't know, let's say Trapper, for example, who could probably benefit from being stealthy. But it's also completely useless on somebody like Ghostface, who naturally has the undetectable status effect. So it's completely useless for a Ghostface. Unless you just generally want to run around stealthy the entire time till you down somebody. I don't know why, when your power basically does that for you, but, to each their own. But there are a lot of killers that I can think of that would benefit from this perk because they're not gonna necessarily down somebody at the beginning because they have either heavy setup times or things like that, like Hag, for example. A hag not having a terror radius and being able to place her traps and then go and pursue somebody, especially because she's I believe, a 4.4 meters per second killer, kind of disgusting. Same with the Huntress. Somebody that has a ranged attack or a dead slinger or something to completely nullify their terror radius till they down somebody, to just be able to walk over and clap some cheeks out of nowhere, or hide and go around somewhere. Next thing you know, a random hatchet just pops you out of nowhere and you have no idea. It's kind of like bink. Well, that happened. And a lot of other killer combinations, stealth-like killers that you wish had the ability to be stealthy, but don't actually have that incorporated into them. Kind of disgusting. Now, once you do down your first survivor, you have to keep in mind that that's it. You've just lost a perk slot. You now are running with 3 perks. So you got to keep in mind what what you are exactly running with. Now, then once you down a survivor, although your ore will be revealed to other survivors for 30 seconds, is kind of ridiculous and preposterous. If that's the case, what's the point in making it a hex? Why not just make it a regular perk and call it a day? There's nothing really here that makes it worthwhile to be a hex. If the hex is cleansed before you down your first survivor, they get a noise notification of where you are. Ooh. And if you do down them, they can see you for 30 seconds. Both of them are negligent and basically irrelevant. The only thing that's going to tell the survivors is whether or not you're camping or whether or not you're leaving and going towards something. Somebody running Kindred can get that every time. Just leave this as a regular perk. Like Lethal Pursuer. Lethal Pursuer is not a hex perk. Make it like Lethal Pursuer. Make it a regular perk and then send it. Keep in mind that if you do want to run something like this, running on a particular build, or, you're going to be a perk down the remainder of the game. Survivors that break a rose suffer from the exposed status effect for 30 seconds. Nowhere up here, and I'm glad that you made that big, does it say that a survivor can break the rose at all. Nowhere here does it state that. So now I know that survivors do have the option to break said roses. Why is it an iridescent, though, is what gets me. 30 seconds of exposure off of just breaking a rose isn't that good. It's not that grand. Phantom Struggle instantly picks up the survivor regardless of their health state. The survivor is enabled to struggle 50% faster than usual. So instead of 3 minutes, it's a minute and a half. Is that what I'm getting? And you can go into Phantom Struggle regardless of their health state. While you can easily just nerf the amount of time that you can hold somebody on your shoulder and then make it to where he can instantly pick up the survivor anyway and make it part of his power and incorporate it better instead of leaving it like this. This is not iridescent worthy. Because if I break the rose and I know you're nowhere near me, or if I know you're chasing somebody else, 30 seconds of exposure is not going to do anything to me. I'm going to break it and I'm going to continue doing what I'm doing. And that is a huge detriment to the killer. That's why I said, instead of throwing out the exposed, they just take a health state of damage. You are severely hurting the killer by taking one of his teleportation paths out. So you should take a health state for that, instead of leaving the exposure and making the killer run over to you and find you and hit you and try to down you in that time. Obviously, you're not going to engage in any type of rose if the killer's nearby or not preoccupied. This ain't worth it. You skip the skill checks and you can pick the particular person up regardless of their health state or anything like that, but it only lasts for a minute and a half instead of the 3 minutes. You're sort of there, but you're still kind of way off the base topic of you got this person on your shoulder and you're just kind of running around with them for like a minute and a half. You have to keep in mind that people ain't that patient. They will literally rage quit. The moment you try and pick them up and do that, they will rage quit and they will instantly leave the match because they don't want to wait a minute and a half not being able to do anything. It'd be different if you put them like You're carrying their body, but their body, you know, their screen shows them like a puzzle or something that they have to complete to get out, or they have to do skill checks, or they have to do something preferably new and fun and engaging. So as you're being carried around for the minute and a half to 3 minutes, you can actually do something with your life to keep you from rage quitting. Obviously, it's going to be buggy, and if you're in the middle of an interaction and somebody flashlight saves you or pallet saves you, the puzzle might get stuck on your screen and cause like an image issue or something like that. So, I mean, they're going to have to really hard code that to prevent any bugs from happening that way. And trust me, they will happen. I've went through that hell myself. Even if you future proof it, it still happens. But you should definitely give the player something to do while they're waiting that minute and 30/3 minutes in a way to escape from that particular grasp earlier. I mean, some people will just say, screw it, I'm going to the bathroom or I'm going to make food, and, you know, they'll go, you know, make a sandwich or something during that time. Other people are going to be pissed as hell because, you know, they're in a party with their friends and all of that, and they now can't do anything. Only thing they can do is call out your location. And if you're a solo player, then you're just kind of screwed altogether because there's nothing that you can really do but just sit there, which is where you're going to get the majority of your rage quits from. And I don't blame them for rage quitting at that point. No, Steam, how dare you? Well, that's going to be that. I need to see how much. So I'm going to start up Dead by Daylight in the background because I want to see how many iridescent shards I need. And we're going to move on to the, well, what I actually wanted to cover today. Believe it or not, this hour that I wasted on a review is not what I wanted to cover today. That is the killer concept, The Phantom of the Opera by 1,000 Dumplings. I wasn't going to really do reviews. I was going to pick a small one, but I am a very big fan of The Phantom of the Opera. And that pulled me in. Have you heard of perks change? Yes, that's exactly what I'm going to cover next is the mid-chapter perk progress overhaul and everything else that come to date. I was looking at these the other day, and this is what actually pulled me in. Is this website right here. They basically summarized it all, so I don't need to go to any other websites, and it's all there. What I wanted to cover today was the huge mid-chapter perk and progression overall, where prestiges have been unlocked, like I've been saying for quite some time, and I don't think I've ever actually seen that intro all the way through. But prestiges have been unlocked. There's been a whole bunch of different changes. A lot of perks, especially meta perks and things like that, have been changed up, and they've completely rolled the dice and have thrown them. Alright, let me pop Dead by Daylight on screen so I can show you what I'm looking at the moment. I think this one's Dead by Daylight. Yeah. Before we go into the perk changes and all of that, I want to see where my Shrine of Secrets is sitting at. Because if I'm like 1,000 shards off, good lord, I probably won't do that, even though I get a decent amount leveling up. It's probably going to be a pain. Oh, that probably just maxed out my blood points. Twisted Masquerade ends in 1 hour. Yeah, son of a bitch. Is this the PTB? Or is this the regular? I'm not entirely sure. I think this is regular, not the PTB. I can't see up at the top to see if it... Now it's regular, because I have my... Oh, it's not bad. I'm about 500 off. $500 out ain't bad. And I'm about... Yes, I'm like 3 games from a level up. I would have to play... Let's see... At the bare minimum, 10 games, because I'm rusty as fuck, so I'd have to play about 10 games to get there. Yep, there's the oh, it's 1,500. Really? I thought it was gonna be the usual like 3,000. Weren't they 3,000, right? I'm not going crazy. I thought these were regularly 3,000. I don't have barbecue and chili, but I don't run anybody that actually needs barbecue and chili. But I definitely want Deliverance. All I have to do is just level up one time. I'm literally 7 off. Really? A whole 7? I thought these were like 3,000 to pick them. Like 2 or 3,000. Um... I could probably get this faster as I play this killer, but I'm probably gonna play Survivor today just because I'm rusty. But I think it shouldn't take any more than 5 games, and that's me like I play complete doo-doo and I die towards the end. 5 games in order for me to do the thing. Deliverance, this perk, a perk that makes the killer hook you first. Yeah, you have to, or you get a 100% chance at pulling yourself off the hook. However, it has an activation. That being, you have to perform a safe hook rescue on another survivor. Hmm. It used to be a safe hook or a heal, right? Wasn't it a safe hook rescue or a heal? And now it's just a safe hook rescue. Interesting. And then you get the broken status effect, which they up to 100 goddamn seconds. What in the actual hell did you do, behavior? Is this redone? That is actually disgusting. 100 seconds of the broken status effect. I also have 1.6 million blood points. I don't know if I actually want Deliverance anymore. That's bad. 100 seconds of broken status effect. You would have to run whatever the perk it is. It's not vigilance. No, vigil is prevents you from being aura red. Whatever perk it is, you would have to run that just to drop it down to roundabouts normal. And that's still kind of high. I'm not a big fan on that 100 seconds. Especially when it comes to my luck. Generally, the killer likes to stay nearby me, so if I do elect to unhook myself, because my teammates aren't coming for me, or they're trying to farm me or something crazy like that, and I wanted to try and make a play to go down afterwards, or to escape and just be chased by the killer is going to be a pain in the ass. Deliverance is only good now at the end of the game. If you're hooked, you know, as the exit gates are opening and the killer's like, you know, I got you, buddy. You can try to unhook yourself and try to make a last-ditch effort. Damn, that fucking sucks. I waited so long to get Deliverance, and then it's been just 100 seconds of the broken status effect is just dumb. That wouldn't be bad if that was like it's level 1 and that number went down, but I'm pretty sure that's just straight up level 3. Yeah, because that's barbecue and chilies level 3. No. Is that barbecue and chilies level 3? I think it's level 3. Or said it's No, I think that's its level 1 maybe. I don't know. They've redone everything, so I don't know anymore. Tinkerers went from what, 75% or 80% or whatever the hell it is down to 70%. Hmm. What is this? Claim an invitation and hunt down your victims or survive until an exit opens to unlock new masquerade themed perks. Uh, Interesting. Community, destroy or rebuild. Complete a total of 10 million of the following as survivor or killer. Skill checks and breaking skill checks. Community challenge. Complete a total of that. Interesting. So everything's changed on this particular update, and basically I didn't play it. I mean, I'm not sad that I didn't play it, but so I was enjoying a very good gaming hiatus. Alright, Dead by Daylight reveals huge mid-chapter perk and progress, or progression overall. Let me make sure all of this is on the screen. It is cut off a little bit on the side. That's what I was worried about. I don't want to use my Dead by Daylight creation. We'll do this, do that, pop that on screen, and then we will blow this out. Well, that looks stretched as fuck, but let me scroll down to like there. Is that captured properly? Yeah, but it looks weird as fuck because it's stretched all the way the fuck out. Oh shit. Mm, now there's no way to save it. It's gonna look bad regardless of what I do. That's a shame. Oh well. Alright. Now, I stated before I left that sometime behavior's going to have to basically change things up, redo their perks, etc., or they're going to fall behind. My exact words were behavior needed to modernize their game. Everything that they set in the past was being undermined by all the perks and killers and everything that were coming out in the future. And I stated throughout multiple streams that they needed to modernize, and this is what this patch basically is all about, is behavior modernizing their game. I'm glad that they actually did this. So, progression wise, the progression system overhaul, perks, prestige, and shrine of secrets. Behaviors blog post details that their objectives is to shake up the current meta, provide alternatives, and make perks easier to earn. Many builds in DBD will typically utilize a smaller pool of perks that are known to be the most effective on both sides of the playing field. Dead Hard, Decisive Strike, Pop Goes the Weasel, Barbecue and Chili, Ruin, etc. With the post adding that we are also careful to consider the reason why this meta exists and address any base game issues it may have been concealing. Any base game issues that it may be concealing, meaning that if they're changing up the meta and changing how the meta works, they're going to go back in behind it and clean up whatever's left of the game to make the game still run smoothly. So let's say if Ruin, for example, was to be removed from the game, they went back in and added in, better ways to. I'm not saying that it has been removed, by the way. This is just an example. If they were to remove Ruin, they would have better ways for you to get to gems and, break them down faster. So they're giving you an alternative to Ruin and other perks that you can use, things like that. That's what they're basically saying. Starting off with progression system overall, the way that perks are earned is going to be changed, with behavior noting that as the game continues to grow, the grid expands at an exponential rate with every new chapter, and that is true. There are so many perks that are in the game, some being meta, some being completely basically useless because they haven't been, changed from the beginning. This influx of perks, the only thing they could do is either start deleting perks and then changing perks that, have some use and upgrading them, or going back in and breaking down the meta or the bar that's been set by the community and opening up more doors to more perks. AKA, like I said in one word, modernizing their game. Out with the old and with the new. The post continues. In the current system, you must reach level 40 on a given character to unlock all teachable perks, then find those perks in Blood Webs. According to the studio's data, to unlock all of the perks on each character ahead of the new chapter, players would need to play a whopping estimated time of 4.1 hours daily, which would instead increase to an average of 1.01 hours with the new system. Not to mention, on top of that 1.1 hours daily of playtime, you got to think of the, sometimes 5 to 10 minutes of wait time in between that. So, ads going to be even longer with the wait times and all of that, and depending on when you can actually play the game. If you play the game when it's busy and everybody else is on, you might find games quicker. If you work a specific work schedule or wake up at a specific time and you get it when the servers aren't up, you're going to be stuck with longer wait times, especially if you're playing with friends. If you're playing with friends and it's not a full squad, it's like 2 or 3 additional people, you're probably going to be looking at longer wait times. That's where the issues come into play. Now, 4.1 hours daily, and to decrease everything from 1.01 hours daily. This is not complete data, and if you're going to quote something from behavior, quote the entire source. And this is where I'm kind of a little bit irritated with this website. 4.1 hours daily over what period of time? Is it a month? 4.1 hours daily over a month to get everything unlocked, and then it's going down to 1.01 hours daily for a month. Because if it's a scale of a month, then I mean that's completely fine. I don't see it needing to be reworked. The perks take a long time to incorporate because you have to play with that particular character and rank them up. Despite there not being any hugely notable differences, each particular character has different heights, different run styles, etc., etc. They run at the same speed, but they have the different heights and, things like that, which makes some easier to play. Like the females are short and very compact and have better clothes on some of the females, like Claudette or Nea or anything like that. They're more compact and easier to hide than somebody like, David King or something like that, who's extremely tall and extremely, bright looking, and he has all of his, outfits and all of that that stand out. Like Fing Min, she has a bright outfit that stands out. But that's basically what you had to deal with, is just playing from another perspective. Now, if they would have taken my second idea and gave each and every survivor a specific trait and made it to where every single person had to pick a different survivor. Yes, there's going to be animosity because everybody's going to want to play, the short females and all of that. Some people are going to want to play Meg because that's what they do. Some people are going to want to play Nea. Some people are going to want to play, individual characters. But the thing is, you don't need to just stick with one particular character. And you need to break that habit that people have. You should give each and every character one particular trait and unlock a trait system for those characters and have like a scaling trait system that as you play the character more, you can trade up and level that character up for those who only want to play one character. But also, if they don't get to play their character because another character or player locked them in or something like that before they could lock their choice in, make it to where other characters are more viable options to play. Like if you play a taller character like David King and all of that, he should have, bonuses that attribute to that. He's taller, so he should be able to have, a lengthier stride, or he's the tough guy, so he should be able to do something and give them slight boosts to the actual play. Then provide that trait to system to other killers. It's hot as hell, and there is an ice cream selling in their shop. I think I'm gonna use that chant. See ya, and glad you're back. See ya, Galanonim. Thanks for stopping by. And I don't want to say that I'm back yet, because I don't know if I'll do another review. But if I do decide to, it'd be nice to see everybody again. I actually had a lot more people worried about me not streaming anymore than I thought that would approach me. Messages and comments and things like that. So I do appreciate anybody who sent me a message to make sure I was okay, etc., etc. I appreciate you. So decreasing the amount of time it takes to get perks. And I know a lot of people in the community were complaining about, I have to spend way too much time to unlock perks for this particular character on mine. The only reason I bought this character was for his perks, and it's taken forever. I have to play with this character I don't want to play with for way too long to be able to put the perks on my main character. There's a lot of people that complained about it, but at the end of the day, it's just kind of a spoiled person or an uppity person being mad that anything didn't just magically pop in. They didn't buy a pack and be able to equip that into their character. I'll say it the same as I said it with Rocket League. I'll say it the same as I'm saying it with Dead by Daylight. Hitboxes should not be the same. Each and every individual core or each individual survivor should not be the same. The killers should not be the same. There needs to be a higher variance of killers. They need to have, if you're going to keep it all standard with 4.6 meters per second movement speed and things like that, you should give the killers and survivors who move at 4 meters per second traits. And a whole bunch of different traits to individualize them farther. Because as of now, the only thing you have is the height that they are and the clothes that they can wear. And kind of the weird running animations and things like that is the only thing really separating them. And I would really love for that to be changed. Players keep any perks and bloody cosmetics that they have unlocked. Prestige level will also be awarded pertaining to how many perk tiers have been unlocked. Those that have already reached Prestige 3 before the update will receive a special Prestige icon to recognize their achievements. So if you've prestiged down any character, you're going to get a special icon. So I'm glad I decided to prestige my Nea and Meg before all of this happened. I think I'm max prestige on Meg. I know I am with Nea, but I think I am with Meg as well, so that's 2 under the belt. So now you no longer lose your perks when you prestige, which is kind of the whole point of prestiging in video games, is starting over from scratch. I do see that you still lose your items and everything else, but being able to keep all of the perks unlocked. Their levels probably reset because it wouldn't make sense to prestige if the levels didn't reset, but still having the perks available to you, I can agree with. But instead of just giving you your entire line of perks, they should have just limited it. As you prestige 1, give you the ability to bring over 2 perks. One for, going through the regular time, and then one for the prestige. The next time you prestige, you get to bring over 3 perks. Next time you prestige, 4 perks over. Next time you prestige, 5 perks over. That you can just hold and lock in at their current level and all of that. And bring over with you over in the prestige. And then the rest get wiped out. And as you prestige, you're able to lock in the levels of particular perks. And you can just keep your roster going as you're prestiging. So after you prestige 4, you can keep your meta perks and everything already on your bar and not have to worry about it. That's a system that I would like to see instead of letting players keep all of their perks and just resetting the levels or something out of it. I would also like them to incorporate the alternative killer system, but that's just a personal thing. To where community killers and things like that can be thrown in as offering tokens. Like, for example, the main game, if you want to play a particular killer, you buy that killer and it gives you the chance to play them. Offer a alternative killer pack to where you pay, I don't know, 20, 30 bucks to unlock a slew of killers that you can choose from that they incorporate from the creation forum into the game, or open it up to the workshop where you would have custom survivors, the looks and cosmetics and all of that, and custom killers with, because with the workshop, you can make it approved mods, like, for example, CSGO and things like that, and other games. There's something called an approved mod, and all it is just because cosmetics and things like that that have been custom made for the game that the game devs approved and said that, yeah, it's good enough. They could build a team. Hell, I would love to do it. But a team of people that, as people are submitting completed mods of, killers and things like that, to have a team go in and test it in a match and see if that can be added to the alternative killers system. People that pay the $20 to $30 to unlock the alternative killers, offering tokens and all of that, can go into the pack, download particular killers that they would, find interesting, or sell each individual killer separately if you can get the right signed over and all of that, and it's not, from another company. And run that idea and let people get their ideas into the game and have it approved just by a small team of, behavior devs, or fuck, I'd do it. And have that, approved by a small team and incorporated into the game. So, aside for the main killers, you can pull an alternative killer that nobody's ever seen before, and then you can play with them as part of an offering. And that would really shake things up and give you an almost limitless amount of killers. And any of the failed designs or anything like that, or anything that they're wanting to try in the future, they can also have, test killers and all of that thrown in. And the thing about the alternative killers is they don't even have to be designed and have heavy detail. It doesn't have to have any of that. It doesn't have to be super detailed. It could be just a basic, you take the trapper and his design, and then you change one thing about it to give it, like a default killer appearance. So people don't, misconstrue it for being the trapper. And then you change it, change the head on the body or something like that. Or give the alternative killers just, one standardized design. Make one model and just give that one model different, names and abilities and all of that. As you're loading in, tell the players in the room what killer they're up against so they know. And then bada bing, bada boom, you play the game. And if it gets popular enough, you can port it into the main game, or you can design particular, models and all of that based off the more popular ones. Obviously, that's going to have to be thought through more and have to be, reprocessed and go through the company and all that other shit. But, again, I'm just trying to give ideas. Take my idea and take it to the extreme and make it succeed. You know what I'm saying? I don't need any credit. I just want to see some things done. Progression system. Teachable perk rarity has been replaced and is now tied to its prestige. Prestiging a character to T1 will unlock all initial versions of their perk. Ah. For every character without utilizing Blood Web, Tier 2 and 3 prestige will unlock these versions of the perks for all characters. Interesting. So as you prestige the character, then everything's unlocked for every other character. Hmm. Higher tier perk versions will also appear randomly in the blood webs after the first tier has been unlocked. That is kind of nice too. Instead of leveling up every perk one at a time, you might get a rare roll to where you just get a level 2 or 3 perk right off the bat and not have to just waste blood points cycling. That's nice. Prestiging is also no longer an optional choice. After purchasing the node within a special blood web, the character's level will reset to 1 and you'll gain prestige. So what you're saying is, after I get to the end of the road, the last module or node that I have is going to be prestige. There's no longer unlimited cycling. That's kind of dropping the ball, because I, for one, was the guy in Call of Duty that stayed at max level but never prestiged. So being able to stay at max level, and let's say I need a flashlight, just being able to cycle a couple of times with my million fucking blood points and be able to pull a flashlight for a particular lobby. I like that. But to be forced to prestige and basically stock up blood points, because I mean, it definitely increase the limit of blood points if you're going to do it that way. Because there's going to be people that are like me that just refuse to prestige. I mean, obviously, I'm going to prestige, it's content, but there are going to be some people that refuse to prestige and are just going to sit at maximum blood points the entire time. And all of those extra blood points are going to be useless. All of that extra progression, all of that. Their level's going to go up, but they're never going to get anything, worth their actual prestige. And one day, if they do decide to prestige, there doesn't seem to be any backdating to where when you prestige, all the extra XP is stored and then goes through. So all of that extra work that they put in before they decide to eventually prestige is going to act like it never happened. So there should definitely be like either XP storing or something like that, or the blood points limit should go up higher to where they're able to, get a boost. Once you hit a million blood points, you get an item added into your inventory or something like a blood point capsule that has a million blood points there in it. And as you continue to level up and not use blood points every million over, you get another capsule filled with a million blood points. And as you use blood points, the capsules, refill your blood points and then continue to refill and continue to refill and continue to refill until all of the extra blood points and stuff are, used up. Would be something nice or something like that. Then the other side of that, the blood point capsules that have a million or whatever the max is now, you can offer one up to do something for the game, offer it up as an offering. And if it's filled up, completely, it does this effect. It could be something simple as like an XP boost for everybody for the game, just to help people out. So that you have like 100 of them saved up, and you're towards your max. You can help other people out, or you can make something happen doing that and make it into an offering. Mm. Prestige limits gone. However, only up to prestige 9 you'll get a unique charm. And your prestige level will be displayed in places of grades in the post-trial menu. Hmm. Interesting. 8, 6, 5, 7, and 7. And then the color is what rank they're in. So those are bronze ranked, and then he's a silver rank. And as it fills up, that shows you where they are. So this is probably like bronze 1 or 2, and this is like silver like 4, or however fucking many levels that shit has now. Interesting. Shrine of Secrets will also change here. You'll be able to purchase perks directly, which will instantly unlock the tier 1 version for all characters. That's how it works. Well, I guess it added it to the blood web, but this is just giving it to your characters. Higher tier versions will also start showing up in the blood webs. Purchasing a perk you've already unlocked will increase its tier. I must say that I do like this extra option as opposed to getting like what a little extra blood points on the side for repurchasing it again. I would definitely like to get a tier up instead of just, being like, well, shit, I get a whole 250,000 blood points that does absolutely fuck all nothing if I buy this again. However, I don't like the fact that you're only getting a tier up for rebuying it. Now, I do see that everything's gotten cheaper because I remember it being like 2 grand on some perks and 3 grand on other perks to get them from the Shine of Secrets. So it being dropped to 1500, I could see it being more lenient and more useful to actually tier up and things like that. If it was still the, 3 grand for some perks and 2 grands for other perks, I could definitely say if I buy a perk twice, I should just get it max level. Go from 1 all the way to max and call it a day. Just happen to buy a perk 3 times at like 3,000. That's 9,000. That's enough for a killer, essentially. I could have a whole killer instead of, just a maxed out perk. If it costs 2,000, that's literally 6,000 blood points you've thrown away. It's 3 perks wise, and with this new system, all of them costing 1,500, that's what? Like 6 perks that you could have bought? So, I mean, it's a very gray area for things like that. I do like how they're doing it, giving you the option to increase its tier instead of getting blood points back. That's kind of, it was always ridiculous. Back when I was way back in the past, I used to just get the extra blood points and keep pushing through because I was trying to max my characters out fast as possible. But back then, it was quicker to level up. I think it only took like a million like skill points or some shit like that to level up all the way completely. It was very small. Now it takes like two and some change. It used to take two and some change. DBD matchmaking changes incentives. Yes, incentives are being introduced to game to work towards improving the likes of wait times for matches. Many changes are planned to improve wait times and match quality. You should probably reverse that because that makes behavior look bad the way you listed that. There are variables that we can't control through code. Chief among them is the distribution of players playing each role. Well, it's not that being the issue. Because let's say you have 100,000 killers and you have 10,000 survivors. Each of the, well, let's actually make it a number that goes into 100,000. 25,000, no, 16,000 survivors. Meaning you would have 4,000 lobbies open at any time. Each lobby has, let's say, 10 minutes of gameplay time. There's going to be, 75,000 people waiting for lobbies to happen and things like that. The easiest way to go beyond that, and you can do the generous way, is to have people that are solo queuing have a message or a setting that pop up that they can opt into in the options menu saying, during load times in game, would you like to receive a message asking you to play, as a killer to fill the gap for an incentive? May it be iridescent sharps or even aura cells, just to like, a couple of those, because they'll add up over time. Or something like that, just give them an incentive, maybe an XP boost or, whatever they decide to deem it necessary, and have a setting to ask people. That is the general, nice way to do things like that. If you want to go the we're not going to throw out any excess money because, well, org cells and all of that costs actual real cash and they're, it's bad for business. design something that you and your party, or if you're solo queuing, a training area that you can go through. Make a training map like Rocket League has during the time you're waiting in between games to where you can run around and, see the game for what it is, have markings on the ground to show them the best paths to take to where they can learn the game. Maybe introduce a small little, training areas that show you, have like fake little area set up for if you're being chased by the killer, you have like an AI or something to where they can just train the AI and they can run this loop and have the loop never exit so they can train particular loops in the interim period. Have an area to where if they're in a party, all of them can go in and they can, walk over, hit a button, become a killer, and the rest of them, they can have just a powwow of fun. And as they wait, give them, a little bit of experience over time for being in the training map. It ain't got to be a huge amount, but, just a little bit of experience or a little bit of blood points or some sort of incentive or an experience boost for their next game for waiting, 10 to 20 minutes if it takes that long. But that's what this game's missing is when you're waiting for a lobby, the only thing you can do is look at your builds or open up a tome or, look at the things that are already there. But once you've done it and it's set, and you've looked through everything, there's nothing you can do but, watch a YouTube video or something like that. But if you don't have a large amount of RAM and you only have like 8 gigabytes, you can run the game fine, but you're not going to be able to open up other tabs and things like that. So you'll have to use your cell phone or do other things. Some people, get up and walk away and cook a meal. Some go to the bathroom. Some, just make a simple sandwich, etc., etc. And when the game starts, they're not even at their computer anymore because there's nothing to keep them there. When I play Rocket League, for example, I have training, I have custom maps, I have a whole bunch of different things that I can go into to keep my interest while I'm waiting on a game to actually, start. I can keep myself entertained because there's a lot of things that you can do. The only thing I kind of wish Rocket League had was its own custom map maker. So I could go in and, use a custom map maker to just create, pseudo maps and things like that and then upload them to the workshop while I'm waiting. Or just do it on my own time, instead of them having to, get the UDK and make all of these maps from scratch. Rocket League definitely could use a map maker. You know how easy it would be to have a basic set of assets thrown in to a map maker like a lot of game has. Have a basic arena already set up that you could start with, or you can make your own custom arena from scratch and have all the pieces you need to fit together so you don't have to go through and do everything, all the hard crap that you need to do. And just be able to make, a standard map in whatever shape you want. Then when it gets done, have an the upload to workshop button that you can just hit. And you can have a multitude of different maps, like Mario Maker, for example. You can have a Mario Maker map and you can see all the creative things that people do with Mario Maker with such simple tools. You don't have to worry about copywriting and everything else because all of the tools are literally, from Nintendo put into the game for other people to use, for other people to have fun with. Rocket League added something in like that, or hell, even if Dead by Daylight added in something like that, that would be pretty cool. Just having, towels and basic assets and everything. Just set and see what people's, minds can come up with. Adding this is affecting everything ranged by time of day, your region, rating, matchmaking incentive, provide players with bonuses for opting into a particular role that needs to be filled. Options menu. These are also unique to each player depending on region and matchmaking ring. If a player has crossplay turned off, these incentives will be disabled. Makes sense. If crossplay's turned off, you definitely don't want to try to pull them using just one code because it'll fuck shit up and make their game crash. Makes sense if they don't have crossplay enabled to keep them out of the fold. You also don't want them discriminating and treating, crossplay people, like crap because they have some sort of prejudice against them. Displayed on the main menu and the ready button, a blood points bonus will now be offered to players that choose to opt in whichever side is lacking. Players ranging from 25 to 100% depending on how much that work is needed. So it's a quick play button. Come on, website. That's the only thing you needed to say is they incorporated a quick play button. In the main menu, you hit play and it drags you into a random game, whether it's killer or survivor. Same as like Friday the 13th. Everybody gets joined into a lobby. Well, before the game went to shit, everybody gets joined into a lobby and then one person randomly is chosen as the killer. Honestly, I'm surprised they haven't incorporated a system like that before, seeing as though they have a lack of players on one side. Having everybody join into a particular game and then randomly pulling a killer from that would be a hell of a lot more functional than drawing from people that specifically want to play killer. And if you notice during Friday the 13th how it's set up, if somebody gets Jason, they kind of like, oh man, I'm Jason, or oh yeah, I'm Jason. And then they continue to play the game, killing people and all of that. Once the people die, they leave the match or they stay for another match, whatever. And then they all move on with their lives. There isn't a outward expression of hate that comes from that being forced into a position that you necessarily don't want to play. So yeah, offering the quick play button is better. And on top of offering the quick play button, I would put out there for the community to see that people that are using the quick play button or the lobbying system that joins 5 people randomly into a lobby and assigns one as killer gets precedence over anybody else that specifically wants to play killer or survivor. And I would put that somewhere. Quick play always finds matches faster than anybody searching specifically killer or survivor. Because quick play fills in the needs of what needs to be done. As another incentive for people who really don't care what they play. DBD perk changes, generator, killer camping, and tunneling updates. This is gonna be interesting. Oh boy, they're changing gen timers. They're changing camping and tunneling. Oh boy, let's see what happens. Speaking of meta, behavior mentions some perks have a dominant usage rate, while individual perks have been addressed in the past. This hasn't been enough to reduce it. So 39 perks in total are set to be updated with the goal of reducing the current meta's reliance. Gameplay elements such as camping, tunneling, and generator speeds are also receiving changes, which are detailed below. Generator. Time it takes to complete a generator has been increased to 90 seconds. Oh, you didn't, you son of a bitch. I mean, I know why you did it, but god damn it. You've just increased everything from 400 seconds to what's 9 times 5? 450 seconds. So you've added a total of 50 seconds, which I guess I could have done that without doing the heavy math. 50 seconds to, which is about another half a gen's worth of time and an extra 10 seconds on top of that to the game. Behavior. You went through so many perk updates to make the game faster. And in making the game faster, making more games and able to start. And then you've undid that progress by making games slower. So you've adapted, you started off with let's just get games through as fast as possible while maintaining a high quality Dead by Daylight experience to get servers through fast as possible, to get games through as fast as possible, but keep the community cycling and increasing matchmaking times and speeds. Now you've went to slowing the game back down and making the game last longer and making people play longer and making people do gens longer. I can see that being a huge problem. Because now I have to stay in the game longer than I really want to. And then I'm going to have to go to a wait time. So if the killer, is chill and plays the game kind of nice, it could be a good, fun experience. But if they're, a try hard sweater or a troll or something like that, then I have to deal with that for even longer. Increasing generator time to 90 seconds. I understand why you would do it because, like I said, by the first time, somebody got hooked on a particular hook. 2 to 3 gens were basically already in line and being popped. If it was a gen rush, 3 gens. If it's just a standard game, 2 gens. 1 gen's gonna pop because it's gonna have 2 people on it, and then a little bit afterwards, another gen's gonna pop. So by the time you down your first survivor, 2 gens are already gone, and they only have 3 gens left. I understand why you increase the time it takes to do gens, but I would implore you to try and design a way that keeps the time to 80 seconds but increases, the amount of time it takes players to do gens. So, for example, you stopped a lot of gen rushing by making them add a lot of time by spawning survivors together. There's always 2 survivors that generally spawn together. That made survivors get incentives to go to the same generator. Yes, they'll complete the gen in 44 seconds, but that's 4 seconds of wasted time, plus both of them have to travel to another generator. So it's actually saving time, and instead of 3 gens popping at the beginning, you'll have 1 gen pop a little bit early, and then a little bit later, 30 something seconds later, another gen's gonna pop. That was clever in your design because it stopped regular, casuals from gen rushing. If they didn't have gen rushing in their mind, it stopped it. And if you made them all spawn together, generally you'll have 2 to 3 people on 1 gen, and then the other person will run off and go to another gen, end up running into the killer, and now they're even slower and even more inefficient. So adjusting spawns and all of that helps as well. Now, one thing that I've always noticed is that when you spawn in as a killer, if you go to the farthest gen farthest from you, there's always a guaranteed survivor spawn there. And most killers do walk from one side of the map to the other because, I mean, it's a guaranteed spawn. As you're looking around and all of that, most killers don't check the generators that are like nearest to them and things like that. But if you put the killer, let's say, not necessarily right on top of the survivors as they spawn, but in the particular neck of the woods, the where they just need to search around them to find where the survivors are, you can completely stop the survivors from gang banging generators at the beginning and forcing them to spread out. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you can do things with spawns to prevent survivors from just jumping on generators and completing them right off the bat. You can also use different game mechanics to increase the amount of time it takes to do a gen instead of actually increasing it by 10 seconds. If that was just set and thought about, how can we extend the game and make it to where two generators aren't going to proc at the same time? You can do a simple thing as to making gen time even more inefficient. Instead of making it 44 seconds with two people on, make it 50 seconds to complete a gen with two people on it. Just doing that, you've increased the amount of time it would take to do a particular gen or inefficiency for the particular gen by 6 seconds. Just like that. So 6 of your 10 seconds you're trying to increase are already gone. Then you can also add in a clause to where, if three or more generators are worked on at the same time, all of the gen efficiency gets decreased. This also works as a good perk for a killer. If more than two generators are worked on at the same time, all gens lose base efficiency. Things like that. You can make it a regular game mechanic to keep, if all four survivors are working on gens at the same time, the gen percentages on all the gen should be, heavily nerfed. Three people are working on gens and you're chasing another survivor, the efficiency of all the gens getting completed should be heavily nerfed. You can easily do something like that to where it incentivizes, them either stacking on gens to get them done quickly, or if they want to do all three gens at the same time, in actuality, that's going to be a lot of electricity going in through all the wires and all of that at one time, and you're probably going to trip a circuit breaker. Because electrical systems and everything like that don't really handle, unless, it's like an electrical plant or it has something designed to handle that. The electrical grid in Dead by Daylight's made to have one or two gens active at the same time, activating at the same time. If you have three gens being worked on and providing electricity to the same circuit at the same time, it's going to create issues. You're going to have a hell of a lot of amperage. And that amperage is going to keep going up and 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 up. And people might say, well, Q, it's generators and all of that, and they're providing things to the exit gates and all of this other thing. But you also got to keep in mind that if you have a gigantic four fucking cylinder, almost diesel fucking engine providing power to a couple of light bulbs and an exit gate, that isn't going to take, and any of those aren't going to take a large amount of electricity, and you have 5 generators providing a huge amount of electricity towards everything, you're going to blow the fuck out of some fucking fuses and some circuit breakers and shit like that. You are going to fry some shit. Yeah, the generator might be hooked to a house, but if you don't understand electricity and how many watts and things like that your average light bulb and things like that take, then versus how much power this generator is pushing out. And also keep in mind there are no transformers or anything like that in between. The generator is connected directly into the electrical grid, being the exit gates and the lights and everything else. So those lights that you see lighting up as the power's going through the exit gate has to have a system of heavy ass resistors in it, or would literally fry the entirety of your goddamn electrical system. So making it to where multiple generators being worked on at the same time would make it inefficient all the way through, and add time in that way, incorporate, up to another 10 seconds, would make teams incentivize stacking generators and losing only 6 seconds by stacking generators and travel time, or everybody can go to separate generators and they can lose the entirety of the 10 seconds because they're all working on generators. Kicking a generator as a killer will remove 2.5% of progress. That's dog shit. That is absolute positive fucking dog shit. Let me tell you why. 2.5 is half of 5. So if we go 10% of 90, that gives you 9 seconds. And that's 10%. Half of 9 is 4.5, which would give you 5%. Half of 4.5 would be... like, what? 2.25? So you're basically taking out like 2.25 seconds or whatever the fuck half of 4.5 is, 2.25 seconds per kick. That's dog shit. If I walk up and I kick a generator that's been worked on, I'm going to get 2.25 seconds worth of time off, and then every 4 seconds another second's gonna go on, come off of that particular generator. That is dog shit. Why not, when the killer kicks a generator, just take off a flat amount? Honestly, I would go as far as to say you should take off anywhere from like 8 to 10 seconds and then make Pop Goes the Weasel a little bit different. Because I mean, a killer coming through and kicking a generator should punish survivors. At the bare minimum, 5% should come off the top of a generator. At the bare minimum. That's 4.5 seconds. I would even advocate 5 seconds should come off of the generator when the killer kicks it. Because if you have a survivor that, as soon as you kick the generator and walk away, touches that generator and starts working on it and you come back, they're going to get a good, 2 to 3 seconds on that generator. And if you go and you kick it again, add another 5 seconds to that. So they've only lost 7 seconds. And if they continue to keep touching the generator as you're kicking it and you're still in the area, they deserve to be punished for that and lose, 5 seconds off the top per kick. 5 seconds is worth kicking the generator before you chase. 2.25 seconds ain't worth shit. 2.25 seconds and then 1 second per every 4 seconds that pass. You spend 20 seconds downing a survivor, you've gotten off an additional 5%. You've managed to, or 5 seconds. You've managed to take the generator down 7.25 seconds and 20 seconds worth of time. That's dog shit when we're talking about 90 seconds to go up there. If you take off 5 seconds off the top, bam, as soon as you hit it, it goes down 5 seconds worth of time. It takes you 20 seconds to down them. You have now taken 10 whole seconds or 1/9 of the generator of time off of that if nobody engaged that. So it took you 20 seconds to down them and you got 10 seconds back of that. So it technically, gen time only took you 10 seconds to down that particular survivor. And you've only spent about 10 seconds doing it. That's amazing time, and that's kind of sort of what you want to be looking for when it comes to a cat and mouse game, is getting time back for taking the time to kick the particular generator. Because the time you're spent kicking the generator, the survivor is running from you at 4 meters per second that you're going to have to catch back up on as well. So keep that in mind. Breaking pallet walls, kicking generators now 10% quicker. Basic attack cooldown is reduced by 10%, and the survivor's speed boost upon being hit is also reduced by 10%. Kicking walls and everything else being 10% quicker is not really, it's the case of big number. Ooh, but it doesn't really do much. Just say it takes 3 seconds to break a pallet, which is generally about what it takes. A tenth of that, you're only saving 0.3 seconds. Now it takes you 2.7 seconds as opposed to 3 seconds. You saved 0.3 seconds of time. Ooh. The only time that really comes into play is if you stack that with another perk that allows you to kick things faster. If you could add 25 or get it up to like 25% break speed, now you're talking. That's a fourth of the time out. It's still not great, but if you take 30 and divide it by 4, that's a little bit over 7 seconds. So round it down, 0.7 seconds faster. It's now only going to take you 2.3 seconds to kick that pallet down. Now we're talking a little bit more pep in your step because you're almost a whole second out as opposed to only being 0.3 seconds out. Now you've made a little bit of a difference. Attack cooldown reduced by 10%. Depending on the killer that you have, it doesn't really take that long to actually attack. And the cooldown being reduced is kind of negligible. I mean, it helps if you know somebody's body blocking or something like that. It'll speed that up. And you'll be able to get hits and things like that faster. So it is good, but it's also like, eh. And the survivor's speed boost upon getting hit is reduced by 10%. You did that to yourself when you introduced the perk Overcome. There is no reason to reduce the survivor's speed boost upon getting hit. You know how many times that I've been slapped, use that speed boost, and the killer just catch right back up to me and clap my cheeks? Tournament-wise and pro play-wise, yeah, that 10% loss is super significant. Casual-wise, you just fucked over a lot of casuals. Hitting somebody, having their speed reduced by that 10% is going to hurt a lot of people, and a lot of killers are going to be clapping cheeks. Bloodlust tears will now activate after 15, 25, and 35 seconds. I want to say that's an increase in bloodlust tears because I feel like bloodlust came out very quickly before then. But that's interesting. Now, this is a terrible balance. I mean, I understand you want more people to play killers and you want to keep your killers happy, but doing things like this is going to cause a lot of issues. Half of the things listed here are negligible and you're only making like 0.1, 0.2 difference. but the speed boost that the survivors being hit is reduced by 10% is very fucky wucky. Because if you're in, like, a chase and you have somebody that knows how to chase and you get hit by them and you're not using overcome, they're going to be able to get back to you and keep that pressure on real damn quick. You're going to have to be on top of your movement, actions, and decisions. And with the new matchmaking and all of that, it's not as bad unless somebody, that's good at the game gets put in with, casuals. Then they're going to get absolutely positively smoked. Like when rank resets and things like that happen, people are going to be very unhappy, but they're going to be unhappy anyway. Camping and tunneling. Survivors will receive a 5-second endurance effect and a 7% haste effect, also for 5 seconds after being unhooked. What the fuck kind of bullshit is that? These will be canceled if a survivor does a conspicuous action while these are active, including generator repairs, healing, cleansing, and opening exit gates. That is the dumbest shit I've ever heard in my life. Basement camping Bubba's cry. Why would you ever give a survivor a 5-second endurance effect and 7% haste effect for 5 seconds? You realize that at a 10% haste status effect for survivors, they're moving at 4.4. So breaking that down into my segmented math that I like to do, 0.4 divided by 2 would be 0.2. That's 5%. Then you add an additional 0.1 because half of 5 and 10 is 7. So you would add an additional 0.1 because it's just basically another half. And you're looking at this survivor being able to move, rounded up, of course, at, like, what would I say? I don't even remember the fucking math that I did. 4.2, so moving at, rounded up 4.3 meters per second. Rounded up. That'd probably be like 4.25 or some shit. But essentially close to the same speed as a 4.4 meters per second killer. I know I could just type in the math, but I'm fucking lazy and I don't feel like moving. But essentially the same speed as a killer, with a 7% haste effect for 5 seconds and 5% endurance. That is the absolute dumbest waste of time. What are you gonna do when it has to do with endgame and you catch a survivor going to an exit gate? You can't put them on a hook that's near the exit gate because a survivor, all they have to do is take a hit, then pull that survivor off of the hook. That survivor body blocks, and then they both just run to the exit at that point. That's 5 whole seconds that they have. Why in the fuck would you ever give them 5 seconds? And haste on top of that. I have talked about numerous ways to handle the tunneling and camping effect and all of that. Numerous ways. You even designed it and didn't completely follow through. If a killer is near a survivor while they're on the hook, especially when they get unhooked, the killer lose points, but it only lose like minus 10 points out of the thousands that they get. If you start deducting heavy points from the killer and making it to where they can't get those pip ups and all of that because they're tunneling and camping and all of that, they'll probably stop. Because let's say you need 15,000 points to rank up in a match. If being near a survivor while they're unhooking or being near a survivor for X amount of time starts a timer that starts deducting points. If you stay 10 seconds near a survivor that's on a hook and you lose 200 points, 100 points, or something like that off the top of your score, whatever you end up with, people will start getting worried of it. You're not going to be able to maintain iridescent if you're losing, if you're bronze, of course, the penalty's not going to be as heavy as iridescent. If you're iridescent and you start losing a huge amount of points for just sitting there and being a scumbag and, face camping and things like that, then, no rank up, rank down. There are way better ways. And like I said, I have said a lot of them over the reviews that you can do to handle the camping and the tunneling effect. This is not the way to do it. So you're telling me if I hook somebody and somebody immediately goes for an unhook or just right in my fucking face, then there's nothing that I can do to redown that person unless I decide to hit them, then chase them and hit them again. And if that person that runs through unhooks that particular survivor and basically farms them, you're telling me I'm supposed to ignore this prime rib that's sitting in front of me, and I'm supposed to just generally turn the other cheek and go for the other survivor who fucked up and basically farmed that individual or traded for that individual. How's about instead of doing the endurance thing and all of that, you imply penalties to the other survivor, the one that's farming? If the killer is standing right there and you elect to pull that survivor from the hook, you should take the penalty of a hit that, that's coming that other survivor's way. Have like a soul link type of thing instead. Make that soul link last about 5 seconds. So if the person that's being tunneled gets hit while already being injured, the other survivor that picks them up takes the damage. You can do it by putting them in, the deep wound status effect or something like that, but don't give them the speed boost. So the other person unhooks them, the killer's tunneling, the killer hits the person that just came off the hook, it's going to hit the guy that tried to save them, and they're going to take the damage from them for 5 seconds. Afterwards, everything goes back to normal. One, that punishes people from farming or from trading and going down for saving the other person. And two, that's one of the ways you can stop the camping and tunneling. Obviously, I'm spitballing and there's a better solution, but this is just trying to get you on a path of different thought than just a 5 second endurance and 7% haste status effect. That's, no. Mm. Uh, Meta perks. Barbecue and chili blood point bonus has been removed. Let me be the first to tell you that nobody gave a shit about barbecue and chili's blood points extra. Nobody gave a shit about that. That never even needed to be included. The whole point of barbecue and chili is when you hook somebody, you have another target to go for immediately. Nobody gave a shit about the other blood points. That's not why they were using the perk. That shit does not matter. It shouldn't have even been there in the first place. It's an absolute waste of a change. That wasn't an incentive at all. Blood points, you give blood points out like candy. I have 1.6 million. I ain't even played the damn game in like a month or two. Actually, it's been a while. It's been like 3 months. Well, since the last time I streamed. That is a useless change that does nothing. That's basically them just making a change because they didn't know anything that they could change. Now, one thing that you could have done to make barbecue and chili less meta It's just made a noise notification instead of showing the actual aura. So they would just know the area from which survivors were at, as opposed to knowing what the survivor's doing, where they're moving, what they're planning, etc., etc. Just a notification of where they're at. Boom. That's it. Let the notification last for 4 seconds. The killer can look around and say, all right, I got people in these areas. That's it. That would bring it out of the meta because you're no longer using aura reading and you're just using a noise notification. Corrupt intervention. The perk will now deactivate once a survivor enters the dying state. Why? The whole point of corrupt intervention is you're getting rid of a perk slot for the rest of the game in exchange for 2 minutes of a reprieve, where you don't have to worry about the farthest generators from you being worked on. Why deactivate that perk when a survivor enters the dying state? Now what you're saying is the only reason you have to use corrupt intervention is for setup. And most people, I can't say that. For some people, that's the only reason they use it. They go in, they set up their traps, and then they go for, a downing and all of that. So it's like, what the fuck? you know? That's another useless change. I know you don't want corrupt intervention to be a meta perk, but it is the ultimate perk that gives people that have a long setup, like Trapper and Hag and all of that, time to set up. If you want to make corrupt intervention less used, then make it to where setup time is decreased. Instead of the Trapper bending all the way down and setting up traps, have him open the trap in his hand, and then while they hold down the power button, and then when they let go of the power button, he just drops that motherfucker down on the ground. So you can prime traps early and then instantly drop them wherever the fuck you're at to make it faster. Instead of the hag sitting there doing all of her little drawing and figure fours and shit on the goddamn ground to put down traps, have it simple. Have her, have like a jar or some shit, or make her, give her a different animation, or better yet, have her just not bend over and do the same animation in the fucking air. And the shit just goes onto the ground. Just to make that animation faster, so there's no bend down time, and then it's just the symbol. Decrease the setup time it takes to put traps and shit down, instead of decreasing the perk. This is another perk that they just decided they wanted to do something with, and they fucked up. Deactivating corrupt intervention, or deactivating a perk slot, basically, when a survivor enters the dying state. You realize that if corrupt intervention's going on, and you're playing a particular killer that has setup, at the beginning of a match, a survivor can literally just run to where the killer is, force themselves into the dying state, and immediately deactivate corrupt intervention. Immediately. You're trading one down for having all the gens in the back unlocked, and them losing a perk state, or a perk slot. Gone. Ruin progression speed reduced to 50, 70%, 100% from 100 to... What the fuck? Deactivates after a survivor is killed. So when it said gens are... Take the gen down 2.5%, there's no longer any regression, is what you're telling me. The gen kick no longer regresses said gen. It just decreases it by 2.5%. That's it. That's all the more reason to take about 5 seconds off the top then. If there's no type of regression on top of it. Regression speed reduced to 50, 75%, and 100%. That is dog shit. Because Ruin, this is the second time that it's on the go a huge nerf. Original Ruin. If you couldn't hit great skill checks, you suffered for it. Good setup. Second Ruin. As long as you did gens like you're supposed to, Ruin didn't have any effect on you. Despite what Macho and a whole bunch of other people that don't have any hours in the fucking game say. As long as you go to a gen and you work on a gen like you're supposed to, Ruin does not have that huge effect on you. Even if you get 60% on a generator and the killer comes in and starts chasing you, that generator that you're working on might decrease back to 0. But guess what? If you run the killer the entire time it takes to take that generator go back to 0, and you can't lose them, and they are just, the chaser of the century, all of that time that you're spent running, your other teammates working on their generators will get that shit complete. They'll get theirs complete. You lose 60% on a generator and you get 2 gens popped, you still went out on the end there. I understand them not wanting to use Ruin, but you have no alternatives like you're promising. That's super sad. Because now, when I kick a generator, if I'm not running Ruin, the generator apparently isn't going to go back in time. No one escapes death. Survivors will see the Hex Totem's aura within 4 meters upon activation, increasing to 24 meters over 30 seconds. Why not just leave it at the aura 4 meters upon activation? That's it. Why increase that to 24 meters? Because if that killer decides to down somebody and hook that person, everybody else and their mother in that lobby is probably going to break that fucking totem and then try and save that person. Making a perk like NOAD reveal itself makes even more Hex Totem finding perks even more useless and even less used. If I'm running boon totems, I might run the Hex Totem perk. Or, if I'm going up against, I've had a lot of hags in that day, I might switch to that, to get rid of the Hex Totems. Or if I'm afraid of NOAD or something like that, I might run that. But if all the Hex Totems are exposing themselves, Devour of Hope, for example, exposes itself that it's active once it gets to its tier 3, which lets you know, hey, look for a Devour of Hope thing, or you guys might get fucked. If NOAD exposes itself and shows you exactly where it's at, what's the point of using other totem finding perks, y'all? What's the point? Pop Goes the Weasel removes 20% of the generator's current progress instead of total progress. Well, if you're gonna nerf Ruin and nerf how the generators regress, you definitely should have left Pop Goes the Weasel, make it 25% of the current total of the gen's progress. Because what you've done is at least remove the fucking timer you have to use it, or at least extend it or something in that case. Because what you're going to have is, towards the beginning of the game, Pop Goes the Weasel is going to be damn near useless. And towards the middle of the game, if you don't specifically target gens that are being, heavily worked on, that 20% is not going to mean shit. If somebody's 10% on a generator, and you take 20% off of that 10%, they're still going to have another 8% left over, and it's going to be useless. Pain Resonance. The loud noise notifications now remove, and instead of exploding, a generator will now spark upon losing progress. So you took away their notification of knowing which gen was affected by that. That's a 50-50. That is a 50-50. That is a double-edged sword. Killers that rely on a lot of notifications and know where other survivors are because they're slow or don't have a lot of movement or a lot of pressure that they can apply are going to be absolutely fucked. But that's interesting. That's a double-edged sword. I'm neither for or against that particular loud noise notification. It sucks being a killer because killers rely on a lot of contact clues and things to know what's going on. But if you're not patrolling gens properly and things like that, you know, it's kind of an incompetence thing. You're not doing your job properly, so why should, you know, the game do it for you? Tinkerer can now only be activated once per generator. Yes, I wholeheartedly agree. That's how that should have been set up. I've even said that in the past a couple of times. Tinkerer should only be able to activate on one generator, or one time per generator. Because once you get to that line to where you're activating Tinkerer and they come through and they kick that generator and chase you, if somebody else touches that generator, they're going to get another notification. Again, they should be patrolling that generator and keeping an eye on it more often so it doesn't complete. The game shouldn't have to do that for them, or shouldn't do that for them. I do agree wholeheartedly that Tinkerer is a very good play. Survivor. Borrowed time extends the duration of endurance by 10 seconds. Extends beyond what it is, or it's just now 10 seconds. Increasing movement speed by 10 seconds for any survivor you unhook. If it only lasts for 10 seconds, I think that that is great. I would actually prefer it still to be back to like the original, like 8 seconds, as opposed to like the 12 to 15 or whatever ridiculousness it is at now. That is way too much and should have never been that high. It should have never went over 10 seconds. Ever. I would prefer to see it at 8 seconds with a speed movement increase for 10 seconds as well. 8 seconds of endurance, 8 seconds of speed increase. If not less speed increase in 8 seconds of endurance. Decreasing its amount of time is great. Dead Hard provides the endurance effect for 1 second when activated. If the killer's hit is prevented, you'll gain a movement speed boost. This is something that I like. So you're never dead harder. You'll never be, you know, using it and then going down as you're using it. And if you do manage to get hit while dead harding and something happens due to latency, etc., then the endurance status effect will protect you from taking that hit, as opposed to you just going down. And if the killer's hit is prevented, aka you time it properly, you get a small speed boost. That makes sense. You are literally dashing, so you should get that speed boost. That is realistic. I love that. My question is, giving the endurance status effect, does that get rid of the invulnerability of the dash? Because I think you should still be invulnerable during that small dash and still be able to phase through killers while they're in animations. However, coding it with that 1 second of endurance, you know, would be good to stop people from getting clapped even though they use the fucking skill. Then, if you time it properly and don't get tagged by the endurance status effect and all of that, you should gain the movement speed. That would be good. If Dead Heart lost its invulnerability and all of that for the one hit, it's fucking useless. Absolutely, positively, fuck all useless. Unless you somehow incorporate that into a directional dodge that gives you the ability to dodge the killer's hits. I can dodge left, right, backwards, forwards, diagonal, wherever the fuck I'm pressing. Unless you add in the dodge function and make it into an animation and refine the hitboxes and make it to where they can't just sensitivity hit you, then we can talk about, getting rid of the invulnerability. But the endurance status effect for 1 second, if that's all it does and the actual iframes are gone, you've literally just ruined this perk. Absolutely, positively ruin this perk. Because there's no point in getting the endurance status effect and making it to where you have to heal yourself if you could have just taken the hit and went into the injured status effect anyway. Because when you heal the endurance status effect, you don't heal up to the next thing. You go right to the injured status effect. So depending on if it's just this website writing this all fucking stupid and what's actually happened, whether or not agrees whether I'm on board with Dead Hard or not. If the involved iframes are still there with the dash, cool. This is a step in the right direction. If the iframes are gone, or it's dog shit and you just ruined it, it's useless now. And now there's no way to prevent that hit from coming. Decisive strike stun duration has been reduced to 3 seconds from 5 and will now be deactivated once exit gates are powered. Will now be deactivated once exit gates are powered. I agree wholeheartedly that that should have been a thing implemented long ago. Decreasing its stun duration from 3 seconds to 5 seconds, though, I don't think that's a good idea. I can't tell you how many times I've picked somebody up knowing they had decisive strike and then just running back over to them and downing them almost immediately after. I mean, decisive strike is about the equivalent of dropping a pallet on the killer now. I'm not mad because I didn't necessarily run decisive strike. Because, I mean, it locks your game, basically. After I get pulled from a hook, if the killer's tunneling me, he deserves to be stunned for 5 seconds if he's tunneling me. Why not just decrease the amount of time the perk gets active? Or, instead, up above, you have a 5 seconds worth of endurance effect and all of that going on to effect and all of that. Why not, instead of the 5 seconds of endurance status effect when taken off, you just give decisive strike its buff? Hell, instead of giving them the endurance effect, I would be more happy that if a killer was tunneling me, I got a free decisive strike, skill check. If they tried to, if they hit me within, or downed me again, within X amount of meters from the hook or some shit like that, just getting a free decisive strike charge. To where it's at least associated with a perk, or if I'm running borrowed time, even if if I'm running borrowed time as a person, it has a passive of giving me a little extra time, like 5 seconds after somebody unhooks me, and tying these new systems to a particular perk. As opposed, I know it's counterproductive, but I mean, decreasing borrowed time from 12 to 15 or whatever seconds it is to 10 and giving a speed boost. Instead, decrease it to 8 seconds, and then if you're unhooked by somebody else, giving like yourself 5 seconds worth of the ability makes it at least a balanced worthwhile instead of just a hard nerf. Will it be one of the meta used perks? Probably still, but you're decreasing its usefulness. 8 seconds ain't a lot of time, so the body blocks and all of that ain't gonna do much for them. And if I'm running borrowed time, it gives me a use as an anti-tunnel perk as well, like with Decisive Strike. If I get unhooked and the killer, or if I'm unhooking and the killer's tunneling, I should get like a pseudo Decisive Strike, thing that happens. And it should deactivate the perks you use for like 30 seconds or something like that, just as a passive. And then again, if you're being unhooked and you get picked up, you have your regular Decisive Strike, activation. Decrease the activation time from 60 seconds to like 30. Because being locked out of not being able to do anything absolutely sucks ass. Iron Will, grunts of pain reduction have been lowered to 75% and will not be active when exhausted. I mean, makes sense. If you're exhausted, you're generally, just dead. However, you have really fucked some shit over on stealth builds and things like that. If, when I'm exhausted, Iron Will does not work, that means the only time Iron Will is going to be of effect to me is if I'm hiding. If I am not hiding and I am running from the killer or doing anything like that, Iron Will is basically useless to me now. Oh, good point about Iron Will is if the killer was on your fucking ass, you could run around the fucking corner, hide, and then, slowly maneuver around the killer, and they won't be able to hear you or what's going on. Lowering it to about 80%, because, hell, even 90% would be fine to reduce sound. Just not 100, because headphone users are easily going to be able to hear this. Even at 75%, headphones will pick this up. So this perk is basically useless unless the killer's playing on a TV or surround sound or some shit. And then the not be active while exhausted makes Iron Will dead. Self-care. The perk's healing speed has been reduced to 35%. The efficiency bonus has been entirely removed. The healing speed. So instead of 50% healing speed, it's going to be 35% healing speed. So instead of taking 32 seconds, you're looking up and upwards of like 40 seconds now to heal with self care. With no efficiency bonuses. That is the dumbest shit I ever heard in my life. Self care got outclassed when Circle of Healing and Inner Strength and all of those other fucking perks. All the Earth of fucking heal perks started getting introduced, and boon totems and everything else, and the shit that should have been like Inner Strength that was character specific got released to the full public as a regular perk. Self care got outclassed by that shit. So the only thing you did there was make self care dog shit. Now Inner Strength or Second Wind or something like that's gonna be ran instead. Congratulations, you took an already shitty ass perk that got outclassed way back in the past that needed to be modernized and actually upgraded. And yeah, made it even worse. Congratulations. Because when I first seen this, I was like, the healing speed and all that is good, you know, being reduced and all of that, or the healing time. I read healing speed is healing time, and I'm like, oh, it's only 35% extra time instead of 50% extra time. So you're looking at like 24 to 28 seconds. But the healing efficiency's removed. I thought it was going to be great. But no, they made it take longer to heal and got rid of the efficiency bonus. The dog shit balance. What the fuck are you doing, behavior? What are you doing? Fire whoever the hell made that change. Walk into their office and tell them to pack their shit and get the fuck out. Ain't no fucking way you made self-care even worse than what it actually is. So now when somebody gets injured that's running self-care because they don't believe in their teammates, are sitting over in the corner taking 1,000 years to self-care, I'm gonna be fucked as a solo queuer, waiting on them to get back into the fucking, you know, action. If somebody's on a hook, that person's probably gonna die or go to the next phase before Jimbo over there gets done fucking self-caring. Congratulations for making my play experience fucking worse. I hope you get fucking fired. Absolutely packed fucking bags and thrown out of the fucking office. I hope they don't even give you a notification that you're fired. I hope that you go to work one day, your name tag is sitting on top of all your office shit, and that shit's sitting by the fucking curb in a fucking wagon or some shit. And they tell you to just get your shit and get the fuck out. How much I loathe whoever the hell popped that in as a self-care. Self-care was already a pain in the ass before all the heal perks and all that went public. It was a pain in the ass to deal with. Spine chill will now only activate when a killer has a clear line of sight to the survivor. Well, ain't that fucking useless? Because if the survivor's looking around like they're supposed to, then they're gonna probably be able to spot the killer. The whole point of spine chill is knowing that, you know, a killer's nearby. Volt speed boost has been entirely removed, which was what made spine chill, you know, worthwhile beyond that. A lingering effect of half a second has been added to prevent the icon from flickering. Hmm. Lore wise and realistically wise, it makes sense getting a spine chill when you're being looked at by the killer. And I do agree that it's bullshit for stealth killers that other people are alerted from way far away. But you know, dealing with that instead of just making it line of sight, why not simply add something like this? If the killer has line of sight on you from and give it, you know, a huge fucking distance. It can be, I don't know, 128 fucking meters, 60 meters, 80 meters, something like that. Just a huge ways away. If the killer has line of sight on you at any point in time, spine chill activates. However, if the killer comes within, like, I don't know, 8 meters or some shit like that, and they are looking directly at you, spine chill activates as well. This would allow stealth killers to get within 8 meters, which is less than 2 seconds of running speed. It's actually like 1.5 something, but less than 2 seconds of running speed to be able to ambush them from. And if I'm able to get within 8 meters and I know that somebody's running spine chill, I can actually walk towards them, line myself up for an ambush, look the opposite direction to get closer to them, and then pounce on them. as opposed to happen to look completely the opposite direction from way, way, way out in the distance to try and sneak up on them. So, again, make it, normal, whatever the hell the normal spine chill distance is. If you have line of sight, and then severely decrease it to where if they don't have a line of sight when the spine chill activates. That would be more balanced and more fair, and would also keep up to the lore and not fuck shit up. So spine chill users that rely on that to get past stealth killers, if the killer looks at you within 8 meters, that gives you a little time to, you know, move and do whatever you need to do. But it's not going to give you a large amount of time to be able to make maneuvers. Small head start. Ah, we're almost done. Eruption. Generator regression speed penalty is increased to 10%. Incapacitated is up to 25 seconds. You realize that the incapacitated status effect will stop them from being able to do anything to that particular gen, other survivors, etc., etc. So if they're working on a gen on their own and the gen starts regressing at a 10% speed and all of that, there's nothing that they can do to jump back on that gen and start doing anything. And what makes matters worse is if they're stuck off that gen for 25 seconds and the new shitty ass ruin can actually ding them for that'd be 10% regression penalty. Then ruins, now 100% regression penalty, will take another 4% off before they can even do anything. Calorophobia increases skill check speed by 50% on top of its current effect. Okay. Dark Devotion is actually very interesting. Dark Devotion is the one where you hit the obsession and your terror radius transfers to them. So whenever the obsession loses a health state, Dark Devotion activates. That's actually interesting because it doesn't matter if you hit them or whether or not they're in like a bear trap or something else that happens. I actually like that change. So if you do walk up and slap them, your tear radius and all of that stays with them. If you hit them with a hatchet or something, or if they get stuck in a bear trap, your tear radius is going to be applied to them, meaning people are probably not going to approach to try and save them immediately if they are in the area. You can make, I actually like that change. Jolt, this perk's cooldown has been removed. So every time you down somebody, any generator that's within I think it's within tear radius is what it comes out to, can just continuously keep getting dinged. Knockout. Knockout will also cause dying survivors to crawl 50% slower for 15 seconds and reduces recovery speed by 25%. This was taken by the Dead by Daylight creation forum, and I said it was dog shit back then, and I'm gonna say it's dog shit now. When you're at the knockout effect, before it's changed and all of that, you basically couldn't crawl any fucking where. When you were knocked out, you were knocked out. But recovery speed of 25%, crawling 50% slower is just kind of a meh. Plus, they can't see your aura when you have the knockout effect as well. Lethal Pursuer extends duration of all aura reading effects by 10 seconds on top of its existing effect. Its existing effect is literally aura reading for like 10 seconds, so it's gone from like 10 to 12 seconds. Why write it like that? Overcharge causes the kick generator's regression speed to grow from 100% to 400% over the course of 30 seconds alongside its current effects. I am a big fan of Overcharge on the Doctor, so I can't really say that I hate it. But why give it double the effect of Ruin? And granted, it's all going to one generator and it's over the course of 30 seconds, but it's like, why? At 400%, that means every second they're going to lose a percent of generator progress. I'm not doing the math to see how long it's going to take for a generator to go down, because that's just kind of preposterous, but interesting. So regression speed still seems to be in effect, 100%. So what the hell is Ruin do? Maybe it adds an extra 25, 50, then 100%, and they just wrote it differently? It'd still be 200%. I don't know what the fuck they did with Ruin. Gift of Pain. Not really. Who cares? Scourge Hook Monstrous Shrine. That's another suggestion from the actual creation forum. I've already gave my opinion on that. So now Monstrous Shrine converts all basement hooks to Scourge hooks, and they grant 20% faster entity progression if the killer is further away than 24 meters. This was put on the creation form, and then everything after that is literally some shit that I said and added to the end of that. Thatanophobia doesn't really matter. I mean, Thatanophobia has been nerfed and buffed. Literally just taking it back to where it was, and then taking it down, and then taking it back up, and taking it back down. Doesn't matter. Botany knowledge, increasing healing speed efficiency up to 50% is actually disgusting. So what they did is they took the healing speed efficiency from self-care and they applied it to botany knowledge. That's why they did that. So self-care was made a little bit less weak, and then botany knowledge. So if you want the original self-care, you have to run botany knowledge and self-care together. To get that super heal. That's why they did that. It makes sense, but it's also kind of shitty. Because this healing speed efficiency does stack with medkits, circle of healing, syringes, etc., etc. This is fucking amazing for healing builds, but doing this just for self-care still makes me kind of suspicious. We'll see what the public test beta sends back. I think it'll be fine, and this is amazing, and I like it being at 50%, but we'll see what happens there. Calm Spirit, open chest, cleanse and bless totems silently at 30% reduced speed along its current effects. Also, by the end of this, I had better see a fucking buff to Slippery Meat. I had better see a goddamn buff to Slippery Meat. If they don't buff Slippery Meat, I'm gonna lose my fucking mind. It is becoming a meme at this point. I had better see Slippery Meat pop up on this goddamn list. Calm Spirit, I mean, running Iron Will and Calm Spirit together is the completely silent build. Not only will you not scream, you won't ever make any noise or anything like that. Kinda sucks that they nerfed Iron Will, but at least you stay silent and you get a big buff for Calm Spirit. 30% reduced speed kinda sucks, but I understand because you're able to cleanse and bless totems silently. Meaning, as long as the killer doesn't come around and check that shit, you're basically golden. It's not a good effect, but it's also not a bad effect. Dark Sense. When a generator is powered, the killer comes within 24 meters. Their aura is revealed for 10 seconds before deactivating. Hmm. Dark Sense was the one that dinged when you looked at the killer, or no, the killer's equipment. So I do like the change of that. Um, you should definitely have kept its original effects and all of that of dinging when the killer's equipment or whatever, is spotted. Because it was a very good radar to keep you from running into traps and things that you don't see, or the killer themselves. I would have definitely kept that as a passive instead of just having it, generator's been powered. Boop, 10 seconds went by. Alright, Dark Sense is gone. The only good thing that saves this is it specifically says when a generator is powered. However, on that same note, only one person needs to run Dark Sense. If multiple people runs Dark Sense, you're kind of fucked. Because if it stacks between 4 people, that is 40 seconds worth of killer aura reading per generator completed. That's ridiculous. And if it doesn't stack, then that's 3 perk slots that have no use at all. So that's one thing that I've noticed that behavior's kind of been has avoided, is making redundant perks that if you run the perk together with another version of the same perk, that it's just useless for the rest of your team. So that needs to be fixed when it comes to Dark Sense. You need to add in what it did before as sort of a passive so it has some use. Deja Vu, 5% repair speed bonus to revealed generators. I mean, Macho like using fucking Deja Vu and all of that, so I guess it's great for him. It's good for gen rushers, I suppose, if you have nothing else that you could really want to run. An extra 5% repair speed's not bad. I mean, it's good for people with maps. But I'm also like, meh. Distortion, for every 30 seconds you spend within the killer's terror radius, you'll gain 1 token. So it looks like they just made it to where as long as you're in the killer's terror radius, it doesn't matter if you're being chased or whatnot, you still gain tokens. And it doesn't have to be all at one time, it's accumulative. Hope. This perk duration has been removed entirely. I don't remember Hope having a duration, but I rarely use it. Lightweight. Your scratch marks will make you harder to track while also fading. Wait. Okay, this fucking website's just fucking retarded. I'm sorry to use the R word, but that's where we're at right now. The scaling. 5 seconds, 4 seconds, 3 seconds quicker. Alongside current effects, lightweight makes your scratch marks fade faster, by the way. Your scratch marks will make you harder to track, while also fading 5, 4, 3 seconds quicker. So you mean to tell me that if this website is correct in what they're writing, and it's actually like this, the scratch marks are going to be harder to track, so there's probably going to be like spaces in between them or some shit. But the time that they fade's going to be less. I would rather just have my scratch marks fade 5 seconds quicker. If they last for around about 10 seconds, making them fade in 5 seconds is way more, way better. I would leave this at tier 1 if it goes 5, 4, and 3. I'd leave it at tier 1. Lucky break, no idea what it does. No one left behind, granting a movement speed boost to survivors you unhook. Not bad. I don't know about permanent 7% speed boost though. I would definitely add a time limit to that and not just leave it at permanent 7% if it's not already there. Off the record is a essentially decisive strike, but it goes by the hit instead. So after you get unhooked, you get the endurance status effect, which will basically eat one hit for you. Mm, I don't know about that one, Chief. Pretty sure after record before made your scratch marks disappear after getting unhooked, by the way. If that's all that it does and it doesn't do what it did or did before, then I'm not very happy with this. Having an extra hit, it's basically the equivalent of getting a free heal after getting taken off the hook. So something like second wind and all of that, if you hadn't healed somebody before that, won't work. Or if you haven't, gotten your deliverance trigger or something like that beforehand. Speaking of, if you run off the record with Deliverance, does that activate? Because it's giving you the endurance status effect, even though you have the broken status effect. The endurance status effect is not a heal. So, in essence, running Deliverance and off the record should give you an extra hit, even though you're part of the broken status effect. The only problem I have from that is the broken status effect keeps you from healing. So, if you do get and activate that endurance status effect, which takes like 10 seconds to get rid of, you have to manage to run away at least 10 seconds before the killer hits you, or you're guaranteed to go down. Well, that's not true, because the endurance status effect doesn't go down as long as you're healing. And then Deliverance's effect lasts for 80 seconds. So it'd be a 1-for-1. So even if you did get hit as soon as you got off, so you would have to last at least a second. So you would have to last a second without getting hit after being pulled off of a hook or jumping off of a hook yourself. Then after that, you would have enough time to heal yourself. Hmm. Another issue is what's the point of having borrowed time like that when you can run off the record now? Borrowed time being, how it works with the movement speed and all of that. The whole point of borrowed time is it was a meta perk. Somebody could save you and give you the endurance status effect. Off the record is just the opposite of borrowed time, to where when you're unhooked, you give yourself the borrowed time effect and it lasts for 60 seconds. So instead of having the 12 seconds to do what you normally do with borrowed time, you now have 60 seconds to run to the exit and do whatever you need to do. This is redundant as fuck and a waste of time and way too much goddamn time on the opposite end of that spectrum. Why not leave borrowed time the same and leave off the record to just removing scratch marks like normal? Because you've absolutely fucked everything. This is probably the same guy that changed everything else that I've been just disgusted with. Off the records, borrowed time, except for you give it to yourself instead of somebody else giving it to you. The fucking catastrophe. If this is how it actually is written and how it's been changed, behavior, you have fucked up. This is more than a disappointment. This is a mockery of your development skills. And you need to step your fucking game up if this is how it actually is. If it's this website fucking off and not putting things down properly, then somebody needs to get with them and they need to fix their goddamn article. If this is exactly 100% correct, and that's how the game shows this perk now, then fucking behavior, devs. Fix your fucking selves. Unacceptable. Type of mistakes like that is what makes players say, hey, can I just get a fucking refund? I was enjoying your game and you basically ruined it. Please give me my refund so I can go and play other games. That's where things like that lead to. Overzealous. If you cleanse a hex totem, this perk repair speed bonus doubles. Okay. Pharmacy. Whenever you're injured, a guaranteed emergency med kit. This can happen multiple times in a trial. I like that. The one thing that I complained about is the fact that if I'm not injured or anything like that, or if I'm just looking for something in a particular trial and happen to, have a med kit pop up in front of me, kind of pisses me off. But instead of when you're injured, you're guaranteed an emergency med kit, I would love to just have a second activation button. Like while I'm opening up a chest, I can press, the A button or left mouse click or E or F or, whatever relative button, the action button. And I don't remember what it's called, but the action button and guaranteed, or the secondary action button, and guarantee a med kit for when I want the med kit. Saboteur. Survivors with this perk can identify Scorch Hook and ores are shown in yellow when they are being carried. Why when they are being carried? See, they don't make any fucking sense than when they have to know where Scorch Hooks are while you're being carried. You want to see the shit when other people are being carried. Because if I have Saboteur on and I can see where the Scorch Hooks are, I can run that way and prevent the killer from getting the Scorch Hook activation. Or I can just drop that hook and stop, other things from happening. Why the hell would I care when I'm on the fucking survivor's shoulder? I think this is supposed to say, when they say they are being carried, they mean your teammates. Ores are shown in yellow when they are being carried. But the way this is wrote, this makes you think that they are survivors and whoever's using the actual perk. So I think this is them fucking off and being, I don't know, maybe English isn't their first language or something. But I think this is them being fucky wucky here and not behavior. Sole Survivor, when you're the last survivor in the trial, it increases your generator repair speed by 75%, and everything else opens 50% faster. Okay. And hatch action speed, unless they changed it during this update, you need a key, which only takes 4 seconds, so you'd be able to open the hatch in 2 seconds. Whoop-de freaking do. Exit gate opening speed is amazing. It goes from what, 20 seconds of exit gate opening speed to 10 seconds of exit gate opening speed. That's kinda ridiculous. But I mean, it's considered a win if you get 3 survivors down anyway. So this is basically just a redemption to save your rank if you're the last survivor and to pull something out. So, I mean, if I'm looking at, getting all 4 survivors dealt with, this is a terrible perk for that. But if I'm looking at a redemption arc, so somebody can salvage the game and escape, it's not that bad of a perk. Tenacity reduces your grunts of pain by 75% when in a dying state alongside its current effects. Does the Iron Will not work when you're on the ground? I don't know. This is irrelevant because headphones and other perks like Deer Stalker or whatever the hell it's called, but headphones, 75% is not high enough for headphone users. Yeah, turn your headphones all the way up, and it doesn't matter if they're peeping like a mouse, you're gonna hear them. Instead of decreasing the sound that they make, you should decrease the distance at which the sound can be picked up. That's how you counter headphone users. Decrease the distance from the sound can be heard, not the actual sound itself. I don't know if they do that or not, but that's just my 2 cents. We're gonna live forever. Blood point bonus has been removed. Oh, okay. I'm definitely not clicking on the full blog post, not today. I might go back in some other day. And we'll add it to my tools. I'll go back in another day on the official blog post and we'll go back in and see other things to get a better opinion. So I guess there's going to be at least another stream sometime. Probably won't be soon, but sometime. Maybe. I don't promise. I would like to wait for them to do another blog post following up on this so I can do the newer blog post and then compare some of that to the old things I went over. But like I said, everything that I'm saying and all that's subject to change, and I also went off an external website. So if things aren't exactly how I say they are, keep in mind that my opinion's only temporary and could change. I could get on in an hour, I could get on 5 minutes, I can get on next day, tomorrow, day after, and say, hey guys, I went in and looked up more information, and my opinions on so and so changed. That's the whole point of an opinion, is that they change. It's like the difference between, a scientific like fact versus a scientific theory. A theory being something that, has been proven right and has backup and everything on it, but it's not a 100%, proven thing, versus a fact that is 100% of the time the correct thing. Like 2 plus 2 equals 4. That is a fact that still has not been disproven in a long time. It has a lot of evidence and everything behind it that 2 plus 2 indeed equals 4. Whereas there are a lot of theories out there that change. Some change every day, some change throughout the years. Back in the day, some people saying, for example, put tomatoes in the refrigerator and the little drawer and they'll last longer. While other people, nowadays are saying you're not supposed to refrigerate tomatoes. Things like that. People doing different studies and things like that changes things up. One, if it's an organic tornado, that's funny. If it's an organic tomato, you should not refrigerate it. If it's a processed tomato, you know, not actually a real tomato, it was made in a facility, it's gone through the machinery, it's lived through steroids and all other kinds of chemicals sprayed on it, etc., etc. Those you can put into the actual, your produce drawer in your refrigerator, and they'll be completely fine. Organic wise, you don't want to put into your refrigerator. It's actually bad for it. Nobody ever goes into far details like that. So the thing everybody says is don't put tomatoes into the refrigerator. Okay. When it's actually don't put organic tomatoes into the refrigerator. Organic tomatoes, forever. Organic tomatoes are not supposed to be put into the refrigerator because they are still alive and they're growing, and most are pesticide free and all of that. They don't have the steroids and chemicals and everything else sprayed on them. They're not resistant and all of that. An organic tomato sitting out in the sun, it still might, grow and change color and do things like that. Versus processed or altered to all come out that color that you always see. You're only going to really find that particular color unless somebody, left the shit on too long or fucked up somewhere down the line and all that. The majority you're going to see are just going to be that all the way through red color. Now you can leave it out in the sun and you can do whatever, you need to do to change the color of the tomato, but it's different. Either way, I'm done here. It's been 3.5 hours on top of the hour that I did before, so that's like 4.5 hours. And I feel like I did something yesterday. Oh yeah, the Rocket League thing. So I'm done for the day. Thank you for really stopping by. It's good to be back every once in a while, but I probably won't make it a habit of doing multiple streams a day like I have before. But as always, supplement your lifestyle, and I will see you next time. Speaking of next time, I'm going to try to, like I said, do the official blog and all of that. That should be very quickly. I might do like a game or two of Rocket League or some shit, and then I'm going to be done.